Chapter 41-39. Every morning before he went to the office, he would meticulously fix his hair and style it with mousse. Yueyao suddenly woke up and opened her mouth to ask for daddy. He walked over and picked her up. His hair was not fixed yet, but the little princess already thought that his hair looked good. She grabbed it with her little hands. Wuxia did not allow it and patted her little hands. As a result, her rebellious heart was aroused. The more her daddy did not allow her to touch it, the more she wanted to touch it. Her little hands scratched wildly, messing up his hair. Yunshirsher walked over and saw Wuxia carrying Yueyao. She looked helpless, but she could not bear to scold him. That day, a certain someone went to work with this messy hair. It was said that Lu Jinyu and Jiang Xin had been secretly laughing at him behind his back. It was unprecedented for their boss to appear in the office with a head of messy hair. However, his hair had already been fixed. Unless it was washed, it really could not be fixed. When asked for the reason, Wuxia was even proud of his little princess's masterpiece, and said that Yueyao had personally done it for him. Lu Jinyu and Jiang Xin were amused when they heard that. They laughed at him for being a clown. Wuxia said half-jokingly, "Who asked me to only have one daughter? If we have another one, it won't be just one." Jiang Xin also joked. Lu Jinyu bumped his shoulder. "Are you stupid? Boss only has one daughter. There won't be any more in the future. What's wrong? Have you forgotten?" Lu Jinyu was speechless. Boss had a sterilization operation. "Ah, I remember now." Jiang Xin only then remembered that after Yueyao was born, Wuxia had a sterilization operation. A son and a daughter could be said to be perfect. He had nothing to be regretful about. Yu hugged Yueyao and teased her while saying meaningfully, "Yueyao, in the future, don't play with that brother of yours. He even cheated his biological sister. Humph, let's ignore him." With that, Yu carried Yueyao away. In the room, Xiaoi Chen was dumbfounded as he watched Yu leave with Yueyao in her arms. "When did I?" he muttered and chased after her. Yu enjoyed spending time with Yueyao. Yueyao liked to pester him to play games. However, he was only 3 years old after all. The games he played were naturally the most childish of all. Yu had long passed the age of playfulness. He matured much earlier than other children, so he was not interested in most of the games that Yueyao liked to play. But as long as it was something Yueyao liked to play, he was willing to be patient and play with him wholeheartedly. Yueyao likes to play with dolls. For this reason, Wuxia specially decorated a room for dolls. The room was very small, but all the wardrobes and furnishings were custom-made according to Yueyao's height. The wardrobes were filled with dolls' clothes and toys for playing house. Yueyao likes to dress the dolls. Every time she pulled Yu into the room, she liked to change the clothes for each of the dolls. At this time, Yu would style the doll's hair according to the clothes that Yueyao changed. The siblings would also study how to braid the hair. Yu thought to himself, let's just treat it as practice for the dolls. When Yueyao grew up, the hair braiding technique that he had practiced would come in handy. Hence, sometimes Yu played even more seriously than Yueyao. Chapter 41-40. If it were Gong Fan, he wouldn't be that interested in dolls. However, if Yueyao pestered him to play with her, he would be very willing. For some reason, if Yueyao pestered and pestered them, no matter which family member it was, they would feel a great sense of accomplishment. Making Yueyao like them was a great source of pride. He remembered that once, Yueyao pestered Gong Jie and asked him to hug her. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Gong Jie bragged about it for half a year. "Yueyao likes it and wants me to hug her. My niece is especially clingy to me." It seemed that this gave him a great sense of accomplishment. Because of this, Wuxia muttered in his heart. That day it was just that he wasn't around. If he had been around, Gong Jie wouldn't have had the chance to appear. However, Gong Jie felt indignant. He felt that as an uncle, his charm was not inferior to Wuxia's at all. One was a father, the other was an uncle. They were at loggerheads. Gong Fan liked Yueyao very much. Perhaps this kind of affection was second only to the kind of affection he had for Yunshirsher. When he was with Yueyao, even if the little girl was noisy, his heart would feel very peaceful and beautiful. The most beautiful thing in the world was when she was noisy and he was laughing. When Xiao Chen came to the living room, he saw Yue Yao sitting in Yu Yu's arms, holding a pizza and eating it with relish. This pizza was made by Yun Shishir. Recently, she wasn't very busy, so she started to learn how to bake. Not to mention, she really didn't have any talent at all. Thus, after asking many friends for help, she finally managed to buy a few baking recipes. She also spent a lot of money to buy a super expensive smart oven. It was the kind of oven that even idiots wouldn't burn. In the recipe books, no matter what ingredient it would be labeled with the amount, the number of grams, and so on. Yun Shishir strictly followed the recipe books and learned to cook step by step. She even used test tubes to control the amount of sugar. With the help of other tools, she finally made a few finished products. This plate of pizza was her successful product. Although it wasn't as delicious as Yu Yu's, it was comparable to the pizza in the restaurant. Yue Yao was a picky eater, just like Mu Yaja, but she could not bear to part with this pizza. Yun Shishir felt a great sense of accomplishment. "Where's Daddy?" Little Yi Chen sat down in his seat and looked around. "Why isn't Daddy back yet? He has to work overtime today for a meeting, so let's eat first and not wait for him. And he's not coming to eat? Probably has a dinner appointment." Mu Yaja rarely had dinner parties unless it was an important one that he could not refuse. Only then would he not return home for dinner. It must be said that Yun Shishir's marriage to Mu Yaja was truly a marriage of love. In the entertainment industry, there were many people who were jealous of her. Most female celebrities who married into rich families looked glamorous on the surface, but in reality, they had to swallow their own bitterness. Everyone was waiting. When Yun Shishir's scandal was exposed, the reporters from the gossip magazines were also eager to take pictures of Yun Shishir's unfortunate marriage. Almost every time there was any news, these reporters would be on the move. They remembered one time when a reporter took a picture of Mu Yaja hugging a woman as he went in and out of a shopping mall. Hence, they spread the news that Mu Yaja was having an affair and that Yun Shishir had a love rival. In the end, a fan enlarged the picture and found that the woman in the picture was Yun Shishir herself. The loving scene between the husband and wife made many people envious. Chapter 41-41. This piece of news also became the biggest joke at that time. Some people laughed at how the paparazzi had resorted to all sorts of underhanded means to smear Yun Shishir and Mu Yaja's marriage in order to hype up the news. Some people envied Yun Shishir for marrying for love. There were so many female celebrities in the entertainment industry, but Yun Shishir was not the only one who had successfully married into a wealthy family. However, there were not many lucky people like Yun Shishir. In fact, there were none at all. Most female celebrities, especially those in the entertainment industry, dreamed of marrying into a wealthy family. However, all the rich young masters knew in their hearts that celebrities who came from the entertainment industry would not be able to survive in the industry if they did not have some tricks up their sleeves. Hence, they knew very well that celebrities weren't that great and weren't that great. Therefore, most female celebrities who married into wealthy families did not lead happy lives. Even if their husbands were extremely wealthy, it was already extremely difficult for them to maintain their status after marrying into a wealthy family. There was no need to think about how many colorful banners their husbands had outside. Some men would even brazenly bring other women into their homes and have several women serve one husband. As wives, they could only swallow their bitterness, because the family's finances were controlled by the men. After marriage, many female celebrities retired or were in a semi-retired state. The most pitiful thing was to marry a rich second-generation heir and live a good life. In the end, after 3 years of marriage, they found out that their husband was a fake rich man who was on the verge of bankruptcy. They were ridiculed for nothing. This female celebrity wanted a divorce so that she could make a comeback and start acting again after the divorce. However, her management company warned her that when she announced her retirement, she had said that she had married for love. If news of this divorce got out, the public would laugh at her for marrying into a wealthy family for money. Now that her husband was bankrupt, she wanted a divorce. That was too worldly. Her image was not flattering. Therefore, the public relations company created an image for her. In order to repay her husband's debts, She made a comeback to support her family. In short, the entertainment industry was full of different kinds of people, but most of them did not lead a good life. Therefore, her life was not satisfactory. So many people hoped that Yoon Shirshir would not lead a good life. It was as if their mentality could only be balanced if she did not lead a good life. Otherwise, so many people who married into wealthy families were unlucky. Why should she be happy? There were even female celebrities who hired private detectives to secretly spy on Yoon Shirshir after she married Muyaja. However, the truth was that they saw it clearly. After marriage, Muyaja's business. The Shengyu Financial Group had replaced the Mu family's position in the capital and became the #1 wealthy family. However, after marriage, he cared a lot about the family. If it was not too important, he would usually leave it to Lu Jinyu and Jiang Xin to follow up. After having a daughter, this high-spirited man seemed to be even more gentle. In the past, whenever he appeared in front of the public, Muyaja would be unsmiling and aloof no matter what happened. Of Yoon, of Yoon, of Yoon, of Yoon, of Yoon, of Mu, 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 of Yoon, of Yoon, of Yoon. He was also willing to appear on camera. Occasionally, the media would muster up the courage to ask about the little princess, and he was willing to share some of his happiness after marriage. Chapter 41-42. Especially when it came to the time when he was a stay-at-home dad, he did everything by himself, from making milk powder to changing diapers. He worked hard to serve this little princess. The reporters did not believe it. What a joke. A man with a net worth of hundreds of millions actually did not hire a nanny and change diapers himself. Didn't he find it dirty? Muyaja retorted matter-of-factly. She's my own daughter. What's there to dislike? There was a hint of displeasure in his tone. It was as if that question was blasphemy to his daughter. After getting married, even though Muyaja was a newlywed, he was slowly becoming more and more like a veteran. During the day, he hinted that he would go to work and leave work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. During holidays, he would take his wife and children on holiday and even attend parent-teacher meetings personally. The entire entertainment industry was dumbfounded. What kind of person was Muyaja? After getting married, if it had been 1 or 2 years, it would have been fine. But after getting married for so long, there were no scandals at all. The only scandals were with his own wife. Wasn't that infuriating? Everyone was waiting to see Yoon Shirshir's drama, but in the end, they were slapped in the face. It was infuriating. What was the saying? Comparisons were odious. Why was it that other people's husbands, who were also rich young masters, were so happy and treated each other with respect, while they lived in such an abyss of suffering? It was unfair. Because of this, someone specially hired a water army to smear Yoon Shirshir's image. In the end, not long after, Muyaja did public relations and banned that female celebrity. He banned her just like that. He did not say many harsh words, but he did it cleanly. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey. With this, no one dared to be rash. It's rare that daddy doesn't come home for dinner. Xiaoyichen held a drumstick and asked curiously, "What's the matter?" "I don't know. I don't know much about your daddy's work." Yoon Shirshir smiled and asked him, "How is it? Is today's drumstick better than the one you made last time?" Xiaoyichen said, And, "You're not allowed to compare with Yu. Yoon Shirshir quickly interrupted him. Yu held back her laughter. Xiaoyichen thought about it carefully and subconsciously smacked his lips. Oh. Yoon Shirshir cleared her throat and said, "You're not allowed to smack your lips while eating." Xiaoyichen smiled, revealing his pearly white teeth. "Because mommy cooks well. Is it better than last time?" "Yes, that's good." Yoon Shirshir had reached perfection. Anyway, it was fine as long as Xiaoyichen liked it. Yu said, "Mommy's cooking skills are improving." Upon hearing this, Xiaoyichen lowered her voice and whispered into his ear, "You don't know how expensive mommy's cooking books are. Last time, she even secretly wanted to sign up for a cooking class. If even that doesn't taste good, then..." Yoon Shirshir's ears were sharp and she heard it. "What did you say?" I said, Xiaoyichen immediately said, "I just said that Yu's cooking skills are so good. He must have inherited mommy's talent. It's just that mommy didn't show it in the past." "Is that so?" Yun Shirshir looked at Yu Yu suspiciously. Xiao Chen also looked at Yu Yu. Yu Yu glanced at him and raised her eyebrows. Xiao Chen looked as innocent as a little deer. Xiao Chen just said that if mommy cooks for him every day, he will be so happy that he won't know what to do. Yun Shirshir was relieved to hear Yu Yu say this. Chapter 41-43. Luckily, his mommy was a sweet and naive girl. She could be coaxed easily. Otherwise, he would have lost his ears. Xiao Chen was secretly delighted and settled down. Yue Yao reached for the fries, obviously wanting to eat them. Yu Yu immediately took a free for her. When Xiao Chen saw this, he immediately took a free and presented it to her as if it was a treasure. The 2 fries were placed in front of her. One was from Yu Yu's hand, and the other was from Xiao Chen's hand. Without any hesitation, Yue Yao grabbed Yu Yu's finger and snatched the fries from his hand, eating them with relish. Luckily, Xiao Chen wasn't a puppy. If his ears were long enough, they would have drooped by now. Are the fries that Big Brother gave you not nice? Xiao Chen wagged his tail like a puppy. He looked at Yue Yao pitifully and said pitifully, "Why don't you want my fries?" Yue Yao said in her baby voice, "Your hands aren't as good-looking as little brother's." Was this a reason? Xiao Chen looked at his hands and then looked at Yu Yu's hands. Although they weren't exactly the same, there wasn't much difference. Which part isn't good-looking? Xiao Chen pouted unhappily, but he was deliberately teasing Yue Yao. Yue Yao immediately reached over with her oily hands and turned Xiao Chen's hands around. She pointed at the rough calluses on his palms and said, "Look, your hands aren't as good-looking as little brother's." Yu Yu frowned slightly when she saw this. The only big difference between Xiao Chen's hands and his was probably their palms. His palms were clean, but Xiao Chen's palms had been sent to the special training camp by Mu Yaja when he was young. Because of the recoil, it was inevitable that Xiao Chen's palms would have some calluses. Xiao Chen looked at them and suddenly laughed. He said to Yue Yao, "But I can protect you. If anyone dares to bully my little sister in the future, I can take them down with one hand." Yue Yao was teased and revealed her cute little front teeth. At first glance, she looked like a naughty little bunny. Xiao Chen couldn't help but look at her affectionately. He had looked at Yu Yao like this many times, and he couldn't help but feel the urge to give her the best things in the world. However, no matter how he thought about it, wasn't this cute little sister of his the best? Little Chen asked again, "Do you want these fries then?" "I want that." Little Yue Yao pointed at the ketchup. Xiao Chen immediately squeezed some ketchup and dipped it into the fries. Yue Yao panicked when she saw this. More. More. She knew that the ketchup was delicious, but until now, she still couldn't pronounce the words ketchup skillfully. Xiao Chen taught her, "This is ketchup. Ketchup." "Yes, that's right." Xiao Chen brought the fries to her mouth. Yue Yao immediately opened her mouth wide, afraid that the sauce would get on her lips. She was a clean freak and loved cleanliness. In the end, no matter how much she opened her mouth was too small and the sauce still got on the corner of her lips. "Aya!" Yue Yao scrunched up her little face. "It's dirty." Xiao Chen immediately picked up a tissue and coaxed her. "Big Brother will wipe it clean for you. Don't move." Little Yue Yao obediently stopped moving. She pouted and let him wipe it. You didn't know whether to laugh or cry when she saw this. "Don't wipe it. It'll get on your lips later. Can't we wipe it together?" Chapter 41-44. However, Yue Yao refused to comply and said seriously, "No, if I don't wipe it clean now, it will get on my clothes. It's so uncomfortable." "Ha ha ha!" Yun Shirshir laughed. Now that Yue Yao was all grown up, she had her own way of speaking and slowly had her own ideas. It was quite fun. Yun Shirshir smiled as she watched this scene. Suddenly, she felt a little worried. Sometimes the happier one was, the more afraid one would be. This kind of happiness was too short. She knew very well that no matter who it was, life would not be smooth sailing. The happier one was, the more uneasy one would feel. Hence, the more uneasy one was, the more one cherished it. After dinner, Yu Yu and Xiao Chen took Yue Yao for a walk. In the past, Yun Shirshir was still worried. However, after thinking about it, She felt that with Xiao Chen around, he would definitely be able to protect Yue Yao and Yu Yu. Hence, gradually, Yun Shishir felt more at ease. Xiao Chen and Yu Yu took Yue Yao for a walk. Yun Shishir was about to wash the dishes when her cell phone suddenly rang. She walked over and picked up her cell phone. She thought that it was Mu Yaja calling, but when she looked at the screen, she saw that it was an unknown number. She thought that it was a prank call and wanted to reject it. However, when she saw that it was an international number, she picked it up curiously. "Is this Shishir? I'm Alice." Alice's serious voice came from the other end of the line. Yun Shishir heard this and nodded. "Yes. It's like this. Usually, Hua Jin would call me at this time every day. However, he didn't call today. I called him, but no one picked up for a long time. What's going on?" Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat when she heard this. Alice agreed to hand Natalia over to Hua Jin on the condition that Hua Jin cooperated with Alice to keep an eye on Natalia. It wasn't that they were monitoring the prisoners. Instead, it was Natalia's second personality. Until now, no one understood it. Therefore, Hua Jin had to cooperate with Alice. Every night, he would report Natalia's situation to Alice. However, today was the only day that they did not call. Alice was a little worried. "I didn't want to trouble you, but Gong Jie is not here. If it's convenient for you, can you go and see what's going on?" Yun Shishir immediately agreed. "Okay. I'll go right away. Okay, be careful on the road." Yun Shishir hung up the phone and stood up. She instructed the housekeeper to inform Xiao Chen and Yu Yu when they returned with Yue Yao that she had something to do. She grabbed her coat and left the house in a hurry. It was not far from Hua Jin's villa. Yun Shishir arrived 20 minutes later. She parked her car and walked to the door to press the doorbell. The villa was equipped with a butler and housekeeper. The butler opened the door. He recognized Yun Shishir and greeted her respectfully. "Hello. May I know, is Hua Jin at home?" "Young master is at home." The butler was a little puzzled. "May I know what's the matter?" "I want to see him." Yun Shishir walked past him hurriedly and was about to enter the villa. The butler stopped her. "Young master is still resting." "Resting?" Yun Shishir was puzzled. "It's not even night time yet. Why is he asleep so early?" "It's not that he's asleep. He hasn't woken up since last night." Yun Shishir widened her eyes. "What? He's still not awake? He slept for a day and a night?" Chapter 41-45. What's going on? Yun Shishir's expression turned serious. "Is he sick?" "No." The butler reported truthfully. "I'm also worried if he's sick, but I've also taken a thermometer. His temperature is normal and there aren't any adverse reactions. He's just become especially sleepy." "Sleepy?" Yun Shishir muttered this word silently. She didn't know why her eyelids suddenly twitched. Recently, Gong Fan had become especially sleepy. He had never been like this in the past. Ever since that day, after his afternoon nap, Gong Fan had never appeared again. Dual personality was a very complicated illness. If she wanted to find out about this personality, she wouldn't know how to meet him unless she went through a psychiatrist or a psychiatrist. What was going on? Gong Fan was the same. Hua Jin was the same. What exactly happened to the two of them? Yun Shishir couldn't figure it out. "Anyway, I want to see him." "Okay. I'll bring you there." Yun Shishir was about to step in when a strange voice came from behind her. "Eh, Shishir?" This familiar voice made Yun Shishir turn around immediately. She looked over and saw Qin Zhou and Liang Yin standing behind her. They looked equally confused. "Why are you here?" The two of them said almost at the same time. Yun Shishir smiled, but she couldn't bring herself to smile. "I'm here to see Hua Jin." "What a coincidence." Qin Zhou curled his lips and walked over. "I called Hua Jin. I heard that he's not feeling well, so I came to see what's going on." "He told you that he's not feeling well?" "Yes." Qin Zhou nodded. "I called him to talk about the termination of the contract." He said a few words vaguely and hung up. I was a little worried, so I decided to visit him personally. Yun Shishir noticed Liang Yin at the side and smiled politely at her. Liang Yin, on the other hand, was at a loss of what to do. Although it wasn't the first time they met, standing in front of Yun Shirshir, who was so gentle and beautiful, she couldn't help but feel ashamed of her inferiority. You don't have to be so reserved with her. Shirshir was a nice person. She didn't put on airs. Just treat her as an ordinary person. Qin Zhou said. When Liang Yin heard this, she felt even more uneasy. Yun Shirshir smiled. It's nothing. Since she's Qin Zhou's friend, she's also my friend. However, now is not the time to chat. Let's go and see Hua Jin first. Liang Yin was also a little worried about Hua Jin, so the three of them walked through the door. There was no one in the living room, and the housekeeper was cleaning. When she saw them, she was shocked. The butler stepped forward and asked, "Is young master still resting?" "That's right." The nanny came back to her senses and immediately said, "He's still in the room. He hasn't woken up yet. Let's go up and take a look." Yun Shirshir and Qin Zhou exchanged glances and instructed Liang Yin to wait downstairs. The two of them hurried upstairs. When they reached the bedroom door, Qin Zhou knocked on the door and called out a few times. When there was no response, he opened the door and walked in. The moment he opened the door, he happened to see Hua Jin getting out of bed and walking over. When the latter saw them, he was stunned for a moment. "You guys! Why are you guys here?" Seeing that Hua Jin was safe and sound, Yun Shirshir heaved a sigh of relief. Her knitted brows finally relaxed a little. "It's good that you're okay." She had been frightened. She had thought that no one cared about him because he was sick. Chapter 41-46. Seeing that Yun Shirshir and Qin Zhou's expressions had changed from anxiety to relief, Hua Jin was even more perplexed. "Look at you guys making a fuss over nothing. I thought I was terminally ill." "Who knows? The butler said that you've been sleeping since last night and haven't woken up yet. Alice also said that no one answered her calls. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been so nervous." Qin Zhou frowned. "Didn't you say that you weren't feeling well?" Hua Jin's heart warmed when he heard that. It turned out that these two fellows had rushed over in a hurry just for this matter. "I'm fine, don't worry. It's just that I really don't feel well. I don't know why, but I feel like I can't wake up." He held his heavy forehead and sat down on the edge of the bed unsteadily. Qin Zhou walked over and realized that his face was inexplicably pale and bloodless. "What's the matter? You don't look well." Yun Shirshir noticed it too, and her heart clenched tightly. Hua Jin shook his head. "Probably because I was too tired recently and didn't get enough rest." He comforted them, but in fact, he didn't know why he had become so lethargic and his mental state was so bad. "Hey, where's Natalia?" Hua Jin suddenly thought of her. Yun Shirshir was curious when he mentioned Natalia, but she said, "She should be well taken care of by the nanny. Don't worry. When we first came in, they were all very casual. She must have been well taken care of. You, on the other hand, do you want to go to the hospital for a checkup?" "Hospital?" Hua Jin looked terrified. "I don't want to go to the hospital." "Why?" "There are so many people in the hospital. If I show up, who knows what news will come out." After he said that, Yun Shirshir and Qin Zhou suddenly looked at each other and burst out laughing. Hua Jin was so afraid of going to the hospital, not because he was afraid of doctors or injections. Something very interesting had happened previously. Hua Jin had gone to the hospital for a checkup because of his severe cold. As a result, he attracted the attention of his fans. While he was waiting for the test results, the hospital was overcrowded. He wore a mask and sat at the entrance of the anorectal department. Because he had a severe cold, his head was heavy and his feet were light. He didn't notice the fans who were secretly taking pictures of him. He was even smug that his disguise was so successful that he wasn't recognized. As a result, the photo of him wearing a mask and sitting at the entrance of the anorectal department was secretly taken by fans and posted online. Many people noticed that he was sitting at the entrance of the department and could not help but imagine. Is Hua Jin a bottom? Could the rumors be true? Is Hua gay? No way. Hua Jin Appa. He is the bottom one. Hua Jin isn't surprised. But what's surprising is that the rumors are actually true. He actually go to the hospital. Will he be all right? It was only then that Hua Jin realized what had happened. When he saw these comments and rumors online after he recovered, he almost vomited blood. These fans' ability to talk from just looking at pictures was too scary. He had just had a severe cold. Why did the rumors become so exaggerated? Chapter 41-47. As a result, Hua Jin was traumatized by the hospital. He had to stay away from it. Don't worry, it's not a big problem. Although Hua Jin didn't know why he was so sleepy, he was sure that it had nothing to do with his health. Yun Shishir was also helpless. However, seeing how insistent Hua Jin was, she couldn't do anything about it. You still remember that? Qin Zhou snorted and threw a stack of newspapers in front of him. Why don't you explain why you want to terminate your contract with Huan Yu and this news? His tone was a little unfriendly. He seemed a little angry. Hua Jin had left without saying goodbye. He had even rushed to finish filming his movie. He had made an inexplicable phone call and told Qin Zhou that he had decided to semi-retire and would not accept any jobs for the time being. He was also willing to bear all the responsibility for breaching the contract. Qin Zhou was a little surprised. When he asked for the reason, Hua Jin didn't say much. He only expressed his guilt towards him. It wasn't easy for Qin Zhou to nurture him for so many years. Now that Hua Jin had announced his semi-retirement, Qin Zhou was even doubting himself. What kind of system was he in? Why did the artists under him suddenly quit for no reason? Except for Gu Xingzi. Whether it was Yun Shishir or Hua Jin, one had retired for the sake of her family and the other had retired for unknown reasons. Just when he was confused, he saw a piece of news on the media. The paparazzi had taken a picture of Hua Jin carrying a girl to the mall. He was holding Natalia's hand and taking her to the children's section to buy toys. Coincidentally, this reporter was also shopping in the mall and casually recorded it with his phone. Without any effort, it created a sensational piece of news in the entertainment industry. Hua Jin's illegitimate daughter exposed. Popular young actor Hua Jin appears in a bustling mall holding a mixed-race girl's hand. Their relationship is confusing. In addition, the news that Hua Jin was going to semi-retire from the entertainment industry spread like wildfire. As a result, everyone suspected that Hua Jin had an illegitimate daughter and was being forced to get married. So he decided to get married, retire from the entertainment industry, and give up on his acting career. Hua Jin stared dumbfoundedly at the extravagant reports in the newspaper. His sluggish expression was almost distorted. What nonsense is this? That's what I want to ask you. Qin Zhou said unhappily. Why didn't you tell me that you had an illegitimate daughter? Even if there's something that's hard to say, I won't blame you if you tell me. You said you wanted to retire without saying a word. Do you respect me? Hua Jin was speechless. He said with a headache. Actually, I don't know how to sort out this relationship, but the child really isn't mine. Not yours? Qin Zhou expressed his doubts. Really? Don't you know me? Hua Jin felt wronged and said, Am I the kind of person who messes around? That's not it. Qin Zhou changed the topic and said, You're a delicate little flower. You can only be trampled on, but you don't have the ability to trample on others. Hua Jin hugged the blanket and felt extremely wronged. That's too much. I'm very obedient. I won't do those kinds of things. You're not allowed to criticize me like that. All right, then. Qin Zhou regained his serious expression. May I know the background of this child? Chapter 41-48. Your responsibility? Qin Zhou was even more surprised now. What was all this about? Yun Shishir explained. This is a girl that my brother asked Hua Jin to take care of. She has a split personality and needs to be adopted and taken care of. She also needs treatment. Initially, I wanted to adopt her, but you know my family's situation. Yao needs someone to take care of her. Yu, Xiaoichen, and now Lisa. I can't do anything else. So I had no choice but to ask Hua Jin to take care of her. Qin Zhou's astonished gaze landed on Hua Jin. Hua Jin looked like a wronged kitten. Actually, Yun Shishir felt very guilty about this. Although Gong Jie had given Hua Jin quite a lot of compensation, asking Hua Jin to take care of a child was like kidnapping his life. It didn't matter whether he was willing or not. After all, Hua Jin had no experience and would be a burden to him. However, Hua Jin accepted it silently. Yun Shirshir was quite surprised that he was willing to take care of Natalia and even retire from the entertainment industry. Yun Shirshir briefly explained the situation to Qin Zhou. After listening to her explanation, Qin Zhou understood the situation. Okay, I'm here today to deal with the termination of the contract. As he spoke, Qin Zhou threw a letter to him. Hua Jin tore it open and read through the document with a look of astonishment on his face. What's wrong? Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows. Do you have any objections to the termination of the contract? Why is the penalty blank? Hua Jin blinked. Do you want me to fill it in? Qin Zhou glanced at him coldly. If you follow the rules, you'll have to pay the company at least 8 figures. 8 figures. Hua Jin sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Gong Jie had promised him that he would help him pay the penalty, he was still shocked when he heard the amount. However, Qin Zhou actually didn't want him to pay. Surprise! What a good person! Hua Jin was so touched that he covered his mouth and tears streamed down his face. Boss Qin, you're really… Shut up. Qin Zhou was still a little annoyed. He was still a little depressed. He had originally planned to make Hua Jin the top star, but in the end, he was a disappointment. He wanted to retire, and the reason was that he had to take care of his child. What a weird reason. However, for the sake of his boss, Qin Zhou had to give her face. Forget it. Qin Zhou waved his hand. If you're still willing to act in the future, I'll help you find resources. If you don't want to, then just stay at home and be a stay-at-home dad. Thank you, Qinda. Hua Jin almost hugged the man's trousers and burst into tears. I'm still a little reluctant to terminate the contract. Don't. Qin Zhou pushed him away in disgust. Hurry up and terminate the contract. I've had it with you. Hua Jin. What happened to the revolutionary camaraderie? Here, pen. Qin Zhou threw the pen to him. Hua Jin took the pen and signed the termination agreement obediently. However, he didn't know why, but after he signed his name, he felt an inexplicable sense of loss. Although he had said earlier that he wanted to quit the entertainment industry because he had had enough of it, when it came to leaving, he actually felt a little reluctant and hesitant. The entertainment industry had taken up almost half of his life. It gave him loneliness, glory, belittlement, and limitless glory. Chapter 41-49. Yun Shirshir looked at Hua Jin's lonely expression when he signed the contract and couldn't help but feel her heart ache. She understood Hua Jin's complicated feelings about the entertainment industry. It wasn't home, but it was home. For a moment, he actually felt reluctant to leave. Yun Shirshir immediately comforted him. Don't feel sad. If you feel reluctant, you can take on a good script if you see one. Hua Jin smiled. It's okay. I'm just being a little pretentious. After all, I've been in the entertainment industry since I was a teenager, so… He smiled. It's okay. After a pause, he suddenly thought of something. He frowned and thought of Natalia. Ah, Natalia. Yun Shirshir was also puzzled when she heard him mention Natalia. Where is she? I don't think I saw her. She should be in her room. Hua Jin was a little puzzled. He didn't know when it happened. He felt like he had slept for a long time. When he woke up, his head was a little swollen, but he couldn't remember what had happened. He vaguely remembered that after Yun Shirshir, Yu, and Shaoichen left, he didn't remember what happened after that. Hua Jin went to Natalia's room, but the room was empty. Just as he was about to leave, he saw a beautiful crystal ball on the table. Before he could take a closer look, he heard Yun Shirshir and the nanny's voices outside the door. Young miss is in the back garden. Back garden? I saw her playing on the swing in the back garden. Hua Jin walked out of the door. When the nanny saw him, she greeted him respectfully. Young master? Is she in the back garden? Yes. When the nanny saw Hua Jin, her face finally relaxed. You're finally awake. I thought you weren't feeling well. Hua Jin waved his hand. It's okay, I'm fine. I'll go check on Natalia. Yun Shirshir suddenly called out to him. Actually, I'm here because I'm worried about you. You didn't pick up your phone. I'm worried that something might have happened to you. Hua Jin didn't think much of it. What's there to worry about? Alice called you, but you didn't answer. She needs to know Natalia's situation at all times. You understand. Hua Jin frowned and nodded. Okay, I'll give her a call later. Yun Shirshir nodded and felt relieved. She looked at Qin Zhou and said, Then I'm going home. There are 3 little guys waiting for me at home. All right. Hua Jin looked at Qin Zhou. What about you? Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows. Why? It's my first time here, and you're in a hurry to chase me away? Hua Jin. No, I have no intention of chasing you away. Qin Zhou cleared his throat and glanced at him. You haven't shown me around your new home. As he spoke, Qin Zhou looked around and clicked his tongue. The villas here aren't cheap, right? You seem to have saved up a little after all these years. He was still a little suspicious. He knew Hua Jin's income very well. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out how he could have so much money to buy a villa here. However, he didn't ask too much. After all, it was his personal matter. When Hua Jin heard this, he felt his scalp stiffen. He actually wanted to explain to Qin Zhou that he didn't buy this villa himself. Chapter 4150. However, he couldn't explain it clearly to Qin Zhou. If he couldn't explain it clearly, he was afraid that Qin Zhou would think too much. Hence, he didn't explain the origin of the villa. Forget it. I don't expect you to stay and treat me to tea. Qin Zhou's original intention was to personally hand over the contract termination letter to Hua Jin. Now that Hua Jin had signed it, the settlement document was effective. He had other things to do. He had to bring Liang Yin to a dinner later. After sending Yun Shirshir downstairs, Hua Jin went downstairs and saw Liang Yin sitting on the sofa. He looked a little surprised. Why are you here? When Liang Yin saw Hua Jin, she immediately put down her teacup and stood up to greet him. I heard that you weren't feeling well, so I came to visit you. Oh, you came to visit me? Hua Jin deliberately said with disdain. Since you said you came to visit, why did you come empty-handed? Liang Yin was speechless. Hua Jin walked over and asked in a low voice, How are things going between you and Qin Zhou? Upon hearing his question, Liang Yin's face turned red. She said in annoyance, Hey, lower your voice. My voice is already very low. Hua Jin glanced at Qin Zhou. He was talking to Yun Shirshir and obviously didn't notice them. Hence, he said to Liang Yin, As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. After I terminate the contract, Qin Zhou will definitely put all his attention on you. This way, you will have more opportunities. However, as a girl, you shouldn't be too proactive. Be more reserved, understand? You really want to terminate the contract? Why? You can't bear to? Hua Jin laughed and said, I'm just fulfilling my dream in advance. Look, I don't have to work and I can travel around the world to my heart's content. Isn't that good? Are you a mistress? Liang Yin's words were like pearls. Hua Jin's lips twitched violently. Kept woman? Qin Zhou said that with your years of income, you can't afford to buy a villa here. You must be a kept woman. Damn it! Hearing what Liang Yin said, Hua Jin was furious. Qin Zhou was actually criticizing him behind his back. Mistress. Was he that kind of gigolo? Hua Jin, I'm leaving. Yun Shirshir suddenly interrupted his thoughts and waved at him. Hua Jin's smile immediately changed. He walked to the door and watched as Yun Shirshir left. Then he retracted his smile and looked at the man beside him with resentment. Qin Zhou only felt an incomparably resentful gaze land on him. He was still a little surprised as to why Hua Jin was glaring at him like that. Liang Yin snickered behind him. Qin Zhou was speechless. Why are you staring at me like that? Nothing. Hua Jin said angrily. Didn't you say you were busy? If there's anything else, I won't keep you. This was a serious order to chase him out. Qin Zhou was secretly puzzled by Hua Jin's sudden change in attitude. However, it was getting late and it was indeed time to leave. He turned around and said to Liang Yin, Let's go. We're in a hurry. Okay. Liang Yin stood up and walked to Qin Zhou's side. Seeing that Hua Jin still had that resentful expression on his face, Qin Zhou was baffled and left. It was only after the two of them left that Hua Jin finally reacted. His current state was no different from being a kept woman. Chapter 41:51. Forget it. Why did he have to think about such messy things? Hua Jin took out his cell phone. As expected, he saw many missed calls. A few of them were from Alice. But did he not wake up after so many calls? He remembered that his cell phone's ringtone was set very loudly. Moreover, his cell phone was placed beside his pillow. Was he sleeping too soundly? Did he not hear such a loud ringtone? Could it be that something had really happened to him? Just as he was wondering, Hua Jin suddenly realized that his cell phone had been set to silent mode. He was even more shocked. His cell phone had been ringing and vibrating all the time. Why had it been set to silent mode for no reason? No wonder he did not wake up after so many calls. Did someone touch his cell phone? Hua Jin did not have time to think too much. He dialed Alice's number as he walked towards the back garden. The call went through very quickly. Alice's nervous voice came from the other end. Hua Jin, it's me. Phew. Alice heaved a sigh of relief. Why didn't you pick up after calling you so many times? I fell asleep, Hua Jin explained. I accidentally set my cell phone to silent mode, so maybe I didn't hear it. Alice was stunned for a moment before she muttered, false alarm. Next time, don't set your cell phone to silent mode. Be careful. Otherwise, if you miss my call, I'll feel uneasy. Okay. How's Natalia now? Alice asked worriedly. Hua Jin happened to walk to the balcony. From his angle, he could see Natalia playing on the swing in the back garden. The little girl could actually sit still. Even if she was alone, she could still enjoy herself. He replied, she's fine. Now she's playing on the swing by herself. You didn't notice anything strange about her, right? Strange. Hua Jin shook his head. No. After a pause, he suddenly changed the topic. Speaking of which, does Natalia really have dual personality disorder? Yes. What happened? So far, no one has discovered what her second personality is like. Even you don't know, right? When Alice heard this, she sighed helplessly. I haven't known her for a long time, but her illness is different from Yu's. Her second personality was created by an outsider, and it's not a split mental world. What's the difference between this and Yu? Apart from the fact that one is a split in self and the other is a split in others, there doesn't seem to be any difference. You're wrong. Alice replied. Split personalities have a strong sense of belonging to their own bodies and are independent. However, if it is created by others, it cannot be ruled out that it can be controlled. Controlled? Since Natalia's personality was created by the outside world, then it can be controlled. Then I have to suspect that her other personality can be controlled. This is not the same nature. I still don't understand. After all, Hua Jin was especially unfamiliar with this field. Chapter 41:52. A scary idea? Hua Jin didn't know why, but when he heard Alice's voice, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. Alice said slowly, Do you know about the Personality Society? Personality Society? This unfamiliar term made Hua Jin a little confused. He said without hiding anything, I've never heard of it. It's normal that you don't know about it. However, the Personality Society may sound complicated, but it's actually very simple. Alice explained to him. The Personality Society is a society formed by many different personalities. These personalities live in the same body, but they each have their own duties. Among the personalities, there will be a leader who will be responsible for managing the other personalities. At the same time, this kind of personality also has the right to exile the other personalities. Is there such a case? Yes. Alice continued. So, Professor Romanka hopes to create a personality society and cultivate a leader personality. Finally, all the personalities other than the leader personality will be exiled, leaving only the leader personality. This will completely cure the multiple personalities. He has always wanted to conquer this field, but I feel that his idea is too eager for quick success. If in the end, these personalities can't be controlled, then the so-called Personality Society will be the real disaster. When Hua Jin heard this, he was terrified. Personality society. How is that possible? Since it's a personality, then gradually it will have its own independent thoughts. Aren't you afraid that it will rebel? I also reminded him, but he was very firm. He even started this experiment in private. I was very opposed to it, but he won't listen to my opinion at all. Then, how did you take Natalia from him? Because Alice smiled sinisterly. I had evidence that he used underage girls to conduct illegal experiments. Also, I threatened him that if he didn't hand her over with my ability, I would definitely ruin his reputation. He was afraid, so he handed her over to me. But even if Natalia was handed over to you, I had to keep an eye on her at all times. No one knows what her second personality is like. If it's a dangerous personality, I have to take her back. Hua Jin nodded. Alice sighed. I'm worried about you. If you develop feelings for Natalia, you won't be able to bear to part with her. Gong Jie entrusted her to me, so I will definitely take good care of her. If you want to bring her back, I will definitely cooperate. Yes. Then, report her situation to me at any time. Sorry to trouble you. It's nothing. After exchanging a few pleasantries, Hua Jin hung up. He stood on the balcony and looked in the direction of the swing, but he suddenly realized that the person had disappeared. Where is he? Just now, he saw her sitting on the swing, enjoying herself so much. Just as Hua Jin was wondering what was going on, Natalia's seductive voice came from behind him. Are you looking for me? Hua Jin was startled. He quickly turned around and saw Natalia standing behind him with her hands clasped behind her back, smiling obediently. When did? Just now. I saw you standing here talking on the phone. I guess that you must be looking for me, right? Chapter 41:53. You? Hua Jin turned back to look in the direction of the garden swing. It was quite a distance away from here. Could it be that this guy knows how to use the blink skill? How did you get here? Natalia looked like she was sizing up an idiot. Of course I walked over. Could it be that they flew over? I don't have any special abilities. Hua Jin muttered to himself. Why didn't I see you walking over? You were on the phone just now. You seemed very serious. Natalia asked curiously. Who was it? Hua Jin pondered for a moment and immediately said, It was a friend. Natalia didn't like to be close to Alice. She was very unhappy with Alice's behavior, which was close to checking on her. Hence, Hua Jin avoided mentioning Alice in front of her. Natalia did not like Alice, and he knew that little secret. However, Natalia still guessed it. Oh, Alice? How? How did you know? From your expression, it seems like you don't want me to know who it was. Then I guessed it right away. It must be that bad woman. Bad woman? Hua Jin was a little helpless. He squatted down in front of her and said patiently, Alice isn't a bad woman. She's just a doctor. She's just helping you with your illness. When Natalia heard that, the smile on her face collapsed. She pursed her pink lips and corrected him seriously. I'm not sick. I'm not a patient. I don't need her to monitor me. I'm not a criminal. She seemed to be very angry. Many people said that she was sick, that she was a patient. However, she didn't feel that she was a patient. She had seen patients before. She felt that she didn't fit the word sick. She didn't understand. She was fine. Why did everyone look at her as if she was sick? She didn't like those pitiful looks. It was as if she was a terminally ill person. She wasn't. Okay, you're not. Actually, no. Natalia took a deep breath. You've discussed it with Alice. You're in charge of monitoring me, aren't you? Hua Jin was speechless. What he didn't know was that Natalia was so sensitive. Despite her young age, she had already noticed all of this. Seeing his expression, Natalia was disappointed and even disappointed. Slowly, she started to get closer to Hua Jin and developed feelings for Hua Jin. However, just as she was about to open her heart, this realization made her extremely disappointed. She looked around coldly and expressionlessly said, This beautiful garden is just for me to stay in this prison. At least I won't be so lonely. You said you wanted to accompany me, but it was only because Daddy couldn't bear to see me alone, right? Hua Jin was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say. Sometimes I find it strange. Why is it that the way you look at me, you clearly want to be friends with me, but it makes me feel a little uncomfortable? You sympathize with me and pity me, right? Natalia's sharp question made Hua Jin a little nervous. He did pity this child, but it wasn't purely because he liked her. He didn't really like children that much. Chapter 41:54. He even thought that if he was going to be alone in the future and would not be able to get married, then he would want to be a dink. He would actively do charity and donate his excess assets to those who were seriously ill or poor, but he would never think of adopting. He had accepted Gong Jie's conditions only because he had a responsibility and a lot of helplessness. He didn't really like Natalia. I know you don't like me very much. Since you don't like me, I won't force you to like me. Then, please don't force yourself to like me. As Natalia said this, her lips curved into a smile. But I will still get along with you peacefully. As she said this, she turned around and walked back into the room. Hua Jin looked at her back view silently. For a moment, he felt an inexplicable sense of helplessness. How could that be? Didn't I see that your relationship with Natalia has improved a lot that day at the amusement park? It was late at night. On the balcony, Hua Jin leaned against the railing, holding his cell phone and complaining to Yun Shirshir. Maybe I really don't have the talent to be a stay-at-home dad. I've tried my best to get on her good side, but this child is so sensitive. With just one look, she denied everything I've done. She's only 6 or 7 years old, but her mind is already so delicate and mature. When Yun Shirshir heard this, she couldn't help but laugh. This is very similar to Yu Yu. Is it? Yu Yu has been very sensitive since he was young. To what extent can he do? Even with just one look, he can tell whether that person likes or dislikes him. Natalia is the same. Hua Jin sighed helplessly. I don't mean to dislike her. It's just that, she appeared too suddenly. Overnight, I was promoted from a single dog to a newbie stay-at-home dad. Although I'm a stand-in stay-at-home dad, my identity changed too quickly. I can't adjust my mentality. On this point, I can understand. Yun Shirshir continued. However, you have to think about it. You haven't experienced the process of preparation, unlike my husband. From preparing for pregnancy to nurturing the fetus, he has been constantly preparing. A man's paternal nature was different from his maternal nature. Motherhood was innate. Perhaps when she didn't have children, she would feel an inexplicable throbbing when she saw other people's children. As for men, there were even some men who didn't realize that they were fathers until their children were 5 or 6 years old. This kind of fatherly nature is generally awakened later. I want to get close to her, Hua Jin said sincerely. You want to get close to her because you promised Alice that you would cooperate with Alice to monitor this child, right? Whenever you want to get close to her, it's because you truly want to get close to your daughter from the perspective of a father. This way, your child will also sincerely open her heart to you. Pausing for a moment, Yun Shirshir suddenly smiled helplessly. I think this child is a little fragile and sensitive. His thoughts are even a little extreme. It's very difficult to get along with her and open up her heart. Isn't that so? Hua Jin asked for help. Then what should I do? I don't want her to guard against me like I'm a wolf. She said that she's not a patient, but she doesn't know her own physical condition. Chapter 41:55. Hua Jin, maybe you don't understand. Yun Shirshir smiled. Even someone as smart and sensible as Yu doesn't want to be treated like a patient. He and Natalia are the same. They are both strong-willed. They can be indifferent to any contempt, but they can't take pity on them lightly. If you treat her like a patient, she will definitely be unhappy, because she doesn't feel like a patient. She's just a little different from others. You have to think about it. Natalia didn't have a home since she was young. She didn't have a sense of belonging, so she has a stubborn personality. She can only protect herself fully like a hedgehog. Actually, you can understand that too, right? Yun Shirshir also grew up in the welfare home. She wasn't as aloof as Natalia. She was stubborn, but she didn't want to grow those thorns. Even though she had suffered so many injuries, she was still willing to smile and report to the world. Because when she was young, someone once told her something. She couldn't remember who that person was. She only remembered that one sentence. There is only one kind of heroism in this world, and that is to recognize the darkness of reality and still love it. She wanted to be this hero. But Natalia was different. She could only use her thorns to protect herself. Hua Jin seemed to be deep in thought. He said seriously, "I understand." When he was young, Hua Jin often felt strange gazes from all kinds of people. They belittled him and saw him clearly. However, he had already become numb to those gazes and forgotten them. He only vaguely remembered that he was once injured and was sent to the hospital. A doctor saw him and looked at him with a look of pity and sympathy as he looked at him with bruises all over his body. That kind of gaze, however, made him feel as if his heart was about to bleed. It wasn't that he hated that gaze. It was an unfamiliar feeling. He didn't like it. "I got it," Yun Shirshir asked. "It's so late. Is she asleep?" "Yeah, she's asleep. I think so. I didn't go to her room. I'll sneak in later to take a look." "Yeah, it's late. I'm going to tell you a bedtime story." "Okay, good night." Hua Jin hung up the phone and placed it on the railing. He raised his head in confusion. He gazed at the night sky. This made him involuntarily recall his youth. Many times after being beaten, he would also secretly stand under the night sky, raise his head, and ask himself, as if he was asking God, but also as if he was asking himself, when would the dark days end? At that time, life was really dark. He even felt that sometimes he had the courage to die, but not the courage to live on. But now, he could no longer remember those gloomy memories. Time could really make one forget everything. Unknowingly, it was late at night. Hua Jin quietly walked to the door of Natalia's room. He turned the doorknob, opened the door, and walked in. Natalia was already asleep on the bed, but the whole room was lit up with purple light. Hua Jin couldn't help but be curious. This kind of purple light was seductive and deep. He didn't remember buying a purple lamp before. This purple light seemed to be coming from the corner of the bed. Hua Jin curiously walked to the head of the bed and realized that the light was coming from a crystal ball. Crystal ball? Chapter 4156. Crystal ball? Is it a lamp? Hua Jin picked up the crystal ball with a weird expression. He vaguely remembered that he saw this crystal ball in her room during the day. However, he did not expect it to glow. Is it a lamp? Hua Jin looked around but could not find the switch of the lamp. Then, how did this crystal ball glow? Hua Jin's gaze fell on this magical crystal ball. He suddenly realized that there was a cloud of fog inside the crystal ball. He gently placed his hand on the surface of the crystal ball. The fog actually stuck to his palm. Separated by the thin surface of the crystal ball, the fog kept rotating, condensing, and dissipating as he touched it. What is this? He had never seen such a magical crystal ball in reality. The fog inside seemed to have a soul. He turned his head and looked at Natalia, who was lying on the bed. The latter was sleeping quietly under the blanket. She was so quiet that it seemed like she was not alive. Hua Jin's gaze fell on the crystal ball again. He could not help but feel suspicious. Crystal ball? Yes. Hua Jin told Alice about the crystal ball. Alice did not know why, but she was silent for a long time. You said that the crystal ball was purple and there was fog inside. Hua Jin described the crystal ball again. On the other end, Alice's breathing stopped. How is that possible? She seemed to be mumbling to herself. What's wrong? Impossible. Alice said in a low voice, "There is no such crystal ball in the world, but I saw it with my own eyes." Impossible. Alice frowned and said in a serious tone, "That kind of crystal ball is usually used for hypnosis treatment. It is something that only the hypnotist would have." How could she have it? Hua Jin did not know why, but he was stunned. He rubbed his forehead and looked at the bare wall in a daze. Is there really such a thing as hypnosis in this world? Hua Jin did not believe it. In his impression, such a crystal ball only existed in the magical world. It was a tool used for divination. In reality, it was used for hypnosis. Is there really such a thing as hypnosis in this world? Alice said coldly, "Do you want me to do it myself and let you experience it?" Hua Jin was even more surprised. "You know how to hypnotize people." Alice was silent. It seemed that Gong Jie did not formally introduce her to Hua Jin. Hua Jin did not know that she was an experienced hypnotist. "If you don't mind, I can show you what hypnosis is. It's fake." Hua Jin did not think much of it. If she had a strong will, how could she be hypnotized by you? Alice rolled her eyes. "How do you think I can erase you use memory?" "But you didn't succeed." Alice was speechless. "So, it seems that you are not a very successful hypnotist." Alice gritted her teeth in anger. "This guy, is he asking for a beating? All right, I got it. Pay attention to everything you do." Then, Hua Jin asked curiously, "What about the crystal ball? Just pretend that you don't know about it." Pausing for a moment, Alice said with genuine concern, "You're so stupid. I'm really worried that with your intelligence you'll be crushed by Natalia." "Enough. Don't doubt my IQ." Chapter 4157. A few days later, news of Hua Jin's retirement from the entertainment industry was released by Huanyu's official media. Hua Jin attended the press conference as well. This seemed to imply that this would be the last time he would appear in front of the media in a while. He wore a white shirt and black trousers. Coupled with his British suit, he looked solemn and steady. He had always dressed as a pretty boy and had a neutral style. Many people couldn't get used to him suddenly changing into a gentlemanly style. He didn't want to come at first, but in order to show his sincerity, at least to the fans, he decided to make an appearance and announce this matter in public. Qin Zhou and Ji Lin attended the press conference as well. Before the press conference, Ji Lin had just arrived and severely criticized him. "I think there's something wrong with you." Ji Lin stared at him coldly. The latter looked innocent. "What do you mean?" Ji Lin said sternly, "Look, most of your artists have retired." Qin Zhou was speechless. Was this his fault? Qin Zhou glanced coldly at Hua Jin. The latter tugged at the corner of his lips guiltily, revealing an awkward but polite smile. "What can I do if I can't keep them?" Ji Lin continued, "I heard that you recently signed a newcomer. Are you planning to support her?" "Yeah. Her name is Liang Yin." "Oh." Ji Lin's next sentence was enough to choke someone to death. "She came by the unspoken rules?" Qin Zhou cleared his throat and said, "I don't touch these weird things. I've seen that girl's photo. She's quite good-looking and has the potential to become a big star." If Ji Lin said that she had the potential to become a big star, then she would definitely become a big star. When Hua Jin heard this, he immediately stood up and patted his chest. "I recommended Liang Yin to Qin Zhou." Qin Zhou and Ji Lin looked at him coldly at the same time. Hua Jin was so scared that he choked and couldn't say another word. Pretend I didn't say anything." When Ji Lin saw Hua Jin, he looked a little unhappy. "I heard that you have an illegitimate daughter?" Hua Jin was speechless. "That's not true, okay? Has Lord Ji also started to believe in the rumors?" "I don't know if it's a rumor or not, but I know that your retirement has caused a lot of financial losses to the company. Don't think that I don't know about it because you didn't pay the penalty for going through the back door." Ji Lin's words made Qin Zhou and Hua Jin tremble. Hua Jin said awkwardly, "Although I've left the entertainment industry, I can still work for the company for free." "Working for free? You're so dedicated." Ji Lin was famous for his poisonous tongue, even more so than Qin Zhou. In Huanyu, Mu Yaja and Qin Zhou would consciously step aside if Ji Lin was number 2 in terms of poisonous tongues. Hua Jin did not dare to provoke him, let alone convict him. Moreover, he was in the wrong this time, so he simply did not say a word. Ji Lin did not really intend to be mean to him. Instead, he gently patted Hua Jin on the shoulder and sighed. "Forget it. You've worked hard in Huanyu even if you haven't made any contributions. You can consider it an early retirement. After all, you've worked harder than anyone else for so many years." With that, Ji Lin walked up to the speaker's seat. Hua Jin silently watched Ji Lin's back. For some reason, his heart throbbed a little. Although Jilin had a poisonous tongue and looked cold on the surface, he was actually very soft-hearted. Chapter 4158. He was also aware of how tired and exhausted Hua Jin must be after being in the entertainment industry for so many years. Putting aside other factors, as a friend, he sincerely hoped that Hua Jin could leave such a foul place like the entertainment industry. Qin Zhou walked to Hua Jin's side and raised his eyebrows. I have a feeling that after this press conference, your Weibo will explode. Hua Jin replied, I think I can already imagine it. Male and female artists were different. The popularity of female artists was not as good as that of male artists. After all, the entertainment industry's target audience was mostly female, and the female community was also the most irrational. If they knew that their idol was leaving the entertainment industry, most of them would definitely break down. For some reason, the news of Hua Jin leaving the entertainment industry seemed to spread like wildfire. Qin Zhou suspected that it was Huan Yu's internal staff who spread the news. Otherwise, no one outside would know about it. The news of Hua Jin's decision to leave the entertainment industry quickly spread among Hua Jin's many fan groups, but no one was willing to believe it. They would rather believe the news that Hua Jin had an illegitimate daughter and perhaps even a secret marriage. They would rather believe that Hua Jin was leaving the entertainment industry and leaving their site. Idols were also known as idols. Sometimes, as idols, they would become the spiritual sustenance of fans in many situations. Without spiritual sustenance all of a sudden, it would be hard for them to get used to it. The press conference was about to start. The media started to take their seats. Many media outlets had also received news that Hua Jin might be leaving the entertainment industry, but they weren't sure if this press conference was to clarify the rumors or to really announce his departure. The press conference started. Qin Zhou was concise and made a short opening speech. Following that, he announced that Huan Yu's original artist, Hua Jin, would be leaving the entertainment industry for personal reasons. Hua Jin stood up and bowed slightly. Through the camera, he expressed his regret to his fans and promised that even if he left the entertainment industry, he would update his personal life on his personal Weibo account. He would also participate in charity in the future in the name of Hua Jin's fan club. A reporter stood up and asked curiously, Is your withdrawal from the entertainment industry related to the rumors about you having an illegitimate daughter? The scene was in an uproar. Many people were familiar with the rumor that Hua Jin had an illegitimate daughter, but no one thought that someone would raise this issue in public. It was a little awkward for a moment. Hua Jin faced it calmly. He said truthfully, I believe that many people have seen the photos of you secretly taken by those media reporters. Regarding this matter, I am here to explain. That girl is not my biological daughter. She is an orphan that I adopted. However, I want to give her a warm home. At the same time, I want to protect her from the outside world. I'm sorry for the negative impact this news has brought to the public, but I also hope that the media will not interfere with my personal life in the future. It doesn't matter if you secretly took photos of me. The child is innocent. I hope that she can grow up in a good environment and have a childhood without any interference. All in all, Hua Jin had left the entertainment industry. This matter had been confirmed by Huan Yu's press conference. Chapter 4159. No one had imagined that Hua Jin would quit the entertainment industry. This news caused a sensation in the entertainment industry. Especially Hua Jin's fans. They couldn't accept this fact at all. As fans, they were already used to seeing their idol every day. Whether it was variety shows, movies, or TV series, Hua Jin's schedule had always been very frequent. As a real young actor with good acting skills, it was rare to see a young actor with such potential. Hua Jin's acting skills could definitely be ranked among the top of the A-list popular actors. His temporary departure from the entertainment industry was indeed a big loss for the entertainment industry. On the second day after Hua Jin announced his retirement from the entertainment industry, Weibo's server crashed. The news of #Hua Jin's retirement from the entertainment industry quickly dominated the headlines of major media websites. Because of the huge amount of traffic data, the entire server was in a state of paralysis. Many users couldn't log in. There were even some haters who wanted to make groundless accusations that Hua Jin decided to quit the entertainment industry because of an underground relationship. Weibo exploded. Huan Yu's official website also exploded. On Hua Jin's personal Weibo, the number of reposts and comments on his latest Weibo post quickly exceeded 7 digits and was moving towards 10 million comments. The public once again witnessed the terrifying effect of Hua Jin's popularity. For some reason, many media outlets found out about Hua Jin's residence. However, due to the layers of protection set up by Gong Jie, they couldn't break in at all. However, Hua Jin also saw on the internet that many media outlets were secretly squatting at the entrance of the villa, just to be the first to take pictures of Hua Jin's retirement from the entertainment industry. This was big news. No one wanted to miss it. Recently, Natalia's situation was still stable. However, Hua Jin thought that he must protect Natalia well and not let her be exposed to the media. Otherwise, Gong Jie would definitely slit his throat. Just as Hua Jin was in a difficult situation hiding from the paparazzi, Yun Shishir suddenly called. Your brother-in-law is on annual leave. Why don't we go to Saipan together? You take Natalia with you. Saipan? Hua Jin was somewhat hesitant. But there are paparazzi at the door. I'm afraid that I'll be surrounded if I go out. Yun Shishir was speechless. Don't tell me. You haven't been out since the press conference? Hua Jin was surprised. How did you know? Just pretend I didn't ask. Yun Shishir pondered for a long time before she suddenly said, It's okay. Don't worry. Your brother-in-law will take care of these problems. Since it's rare for him to take a vacation, and you've been in deep trouble in the country recently, why don't you go out for a vacation and relax? All right. Hua Jin agreed. But I'll have to ask Natalia for her opinion. How is Natalia these days? She's not bad, but she doesn't like to talk much. It's inevitable that she'll feel a little depressed if she's always at home, especially at her age. She'll definitely feel bored if she doesn't have the chance to go out and play. Is that so? Well, anyway, it's settled then. You can ask for her opinion again. Okay. The beach? Chapter 4160. What's wrong? Hua Jin suddenly became nervous. You don't want to go? It's not that I don't want to. It's just... Natalia was a little hesitant. What's the seaside like? She did not look forward to going to a place that she had never been to before. Unlike other children who were full of anticipation when they heard about the seaside, she felt an inexplicable sense of uneasiness. She felt uneasy about going to an unfamiliar place. Hua Jin smiled and described it to her. The seaside is a place that faces the sea. The blue sea and the blue sky make it seem like the sky and the sea are connected when you look from afar. The golden sand and the warm sun make you sunbathe or float in the sea. Actually, going to the seaside is a good way to relax. What do you think? Do you want to go? Natalia's eyes lit up when she heard what he said. It was as if she could vaguely picture the beautiful scene in her mind through his description. It sounds like a great place. Yes. Natalia finally showed a rare smile. Okay. Hua Jin looked at her smiling eyes and was deeply affected by her pure and innocent smile. There was a pure beauty in Natalia's smile. It was the kind of beauty that was not tainted by any impurities. It was the purest kind of beauty in the world. He could not help but squeeze her little hand. Then, let's go together. Okay? Okay. The itinerary was thus finalized. This time, Yun Shishir and Mu Yaja would bring their families along for the trip to Saipan. Xiaoi Chen, Yu Yu, Lisa, and Yueyao were all present. Before Yueyao was 3 years old, Yun Shishir did not bring her to other places mainly because of safety concerns. Because of the shooting incident in the square last time, her heart was more or less covered with a layer of shadow. Most importantly, Yueyao was too young. At that time, she had just learned how to walk. If she were to bring her to a place too far away, she was afraid that there would be some mistakes. More importantly, Mu Yaja did not have much time to accompany her. Recently, he had taken his annual leave and suggested that Yueyao should explore the vast world with him since she was already so old. Yun Shishir gladly agreed to it when she heard that. The family trip that she had been looking forward to was finally here. She had been looking forward to it day and night, to the stars and the moon, all because she wanted to go on a family trip. Wuxia was the one who suggested Saipan. Yun Shishir had been there with him before, and she could not forget the scenery of Saipan's coast. Hence, she decided to set her sights on that place for this trip. Hua Jin was mainly worried about the paparazzi, but this was not a problem for Wuxia at all. The day before their departure, Wuxia sent his men to do a carpet search of the villa's entrance. Unsurprisingly, they caught many paparazzi who had been waiting for a long time. After a series of warnings, no one dared to offend them again. He did not make things difficult for the media reporters. Wuxia was no longer as fierce as he was when he was young. He was much more amiable and did not make things difficult for them. The paparazzi who were caught thought that they would lose their jobs. They did not expect Wuxia to be so lenient. They wished they could go back to the company and publish an article praising him. Chapter 41-61. On the day of departure, Hua Jin woke up early in the morning to pack his luggage and get ready to leave. He had bought quite a number of seaside dresses for Natalia. Some of them were floral designs while others were Lolita designs. No matter how he looked at them, he could not put them down. Imagining how adorable Natalia would look in them made him look forward to it. After packing his luggage, he went to wake Natalia up. Ever since he had become Natalia's guardian, Hua Jin had been very hardworking in his learning to be a new stay-at-home dad. After the press conference announcing his retirement from the entertainment industry, he hadn't had many opportunities to go out, so he focused on learning how to braid hair. The internet was very advanced now. Even though he knew nothing about braiding, he learned very quickly through the online tutorials. In a short time, he had learned several ways to braid hair. Thus, Hua Jin proudly showed off his braiding skills to Natalia. In that way, it sounded like he was asking for a reward. It was just that this was clearly what he liked. Which girl didn't like to be beautiful? Natalia also liked to be beautiful. Ever since Hua Jin had braided her hair, it was the first time she had seen how beautiful hair could be braided. When she was in Miami hospital, no one had taken care of her as meticulously as Hua Jin. He did everything, no matter how big or small, and even used his brain to braid her hair. Thus, her hair was always loose. Fortunately, her hair was very good. Otherwise, it would be hard to imagine what she would look like if her hair was always loose. That morning, before they left, Hua Jin volunteered to braid Natalia's hair after she woke up. Natalia changed into the floral dress that Hua Jin had chosen and sat obediently in front of the dressing mirror. She looked at herself in the mirror with her lips pursed. Her eyes were as beautiful as crescent moons. Hua Jin followed the new hairstyle and braided her hair carefully. Natalia looked at Hua Jin's serious expression through the mirror. She opened her mouth, but didn't say anything. Hua Jin caught a glimpse of her expression and asked gently, "What's wrong? You seem to have something to say." "Uncle, do you know magic?" "Why do you ask?" Hua Jin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. At the same time, he was a little surprised. Natalia tilted her head and swung her legs back and forth. "Because I feel that the hair you braided is like magic. So beautiful." "Ha ha," Hua Jin said seriously. "That's because you're good-looking as a doll." "Really?" Natalia looked at herself in the mirror and smiled sweetly. It had to be said that the braiding technique Hua Jin was so proud of had pulled him closer to Natalia. If the colleagues who were familiar with Hua Jin in the past saw this scene, their eyes would probably pop out. Hua Jin had always been a little demon king in the production team. He was arrogant, rebellious, and difficult to get close to. She didn't expect that he would have such a gentle side to him in front of Natalia. He was so meticulous in braiding her hair. The strands of hair were nimbly outlined by his jade-like fingertips. There was an indescribable sense of beauty in his movements. When he was almost done, Natalia looked surprised, as if she found it novel. Chapter 41-62. "Is this a new one?" "Yes." "Why? Don't you like it?" She pursed her lips and shook her head. "No, I like it a lot." "Really? Does it look good?" "Yes, it looks good." Natalia nodded slightly, looking a little shy. Hua Jin suddenly felt very proud. He naturally felt a sense of accomplishment to be able to make Natalia approve of his work. This hair braid was also very suitable for Natalia. Natalia had a typical oval-shaped face, a high nose bridge and deep eyebrows. However, it was typical that she had not yet grown up. Therefore, her facial features were not as deep as those of European girls. However, there were already hints of exquisiteness. Our Natalia is the most beautiful little princess in the world. Hua Jin squatted gently beside her and held her shoulders. Looking at the porcelain doll in the mirror, he suddenly felt that it was pleasing to the eye. At the same time, he also felt an inexplicable sense of accomplishment. Suddenly, he could not help but have a thought in his mind. If Natalia was really his daughter, how many would there be? This way, he would not have to be jealous of Wuxia for having such a cute daughter. However, on second thought, even if she was not his biological daughter, so what? Was blood relations really that important? He was not old-fashioned and old-fashioned. He felt that there must be a family line to pass on, and he did not think about having a child. He felt that raising a child was more important than having a child. Why not treat Natalia as his real biological daughter? Hua Jin gently stroked her face, his eyes filled with love. Natalia's gaze undoubtedly met his eyes, but she immediately turned her face away shyly. She seemed to have returned to her timid self when they first met. Hua Jin could not help but be stunned. He frowned slightly. The reason why he was a little stunned was because he vaguely realized that Natalia seemed to have changed. He vaguely remembered that one time, he stood on the balcony and saw her when he turned around. It was the same face, but for some reason, Natalia gave him the feeling that she was a demonic little witch. However, the Natalia in front of him now had become the shy doll when they first met. Could it be? They were two different personalities, but he didn't realize it. Hua Jin had some doubts, but he didn't show it too obviously. In the past few days, he seemed to have forgotten the task that Alice had given him. Alice hoped that he would be able to copy Natalia's personality. He wasn't really going to draw a portrait. He was just going to record Natalia's personality and appearance every day. Recently, he had been so busy with his withdrawal from the entertainment industry that he had forgotten about it. What happened? Natalia asked when she saw him in a daze. Oh, it's nothing. Hua Jin took a hand-knitted hat from the side and gently put it on her head. A handmade lily was pinned on her knitted hat, making Natalia look pure and cute. What a nice hat! Natalia couldn't put the hat down. Hua Jin said with a smile, "Bring it with you when you go to the beach, okay?" The wind at the beach was strong, and so was the sun. In order to protect against the sun, Hua Jin had prepared a considerable amount of sunscreen, so that he wouldn't come back with a tan. Especially with Natalia's tender and fair skin, it was easy for her skin to peel when the wind blew and the sun shone on her. Chapter 41:63. At around 10 in the morning, Hua Jin and Natalia left the house. Hua Jin had arranged for the airport to send them off. The car was already parked at the entrance, waiting for them. The chauffeur and assistant immediately got out of the car and put their luggage in the trunk. Hua Jin carried Natalia to the back seat and got into the car himself. He and Yun Shirshir had agreed to meet at the airport. The flight was at 1 in the afternoon, 2 hours earlier. It seemed that lunch would have to be served at the airport. When they arrived at the airport, Yun Shirshir called to say that she had not arrived yet. When he asked, it turned out that Yueyao had been lazy in the morning and had not woken up. Hence, they had only left now and might arrive later. Yun Shirshir did not forget to remind Hua Jin to take Natalia for lunch first. When traveling, in order to catch a flight, 3 meals were rushed. However, there were still many restaurants in the airport. Most of them served simple meals that catered to different international customers. There were American restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Italian restaurants, and so on. Natalia said that she wanted to eat roast duck, but it put Hua Jin in a difficult position. Roast duck? Where would there be authentic roast duck in the airport? Natalia had recently become obsessed with roast duck. She had also shown a great passion for Chinese food. Perhaps it was because she had grown up in the United States. In that kind of environment, most of the food in the United States was high-calorie food. For example, hot dogs, hamburgers, cheese, and the modified American Chinese food that had been brought to the United States. However, the taste was not ideal. It had been adjusted according to the taste of the American people, and it had lost the original taste of Chinese food. After coming to China, ever since Hua Jin brought Natalia to try roast duck, she had shown a great passion for Chinese food. It was delicious. However, most of the restaurants in the airport were simple meals. Where would there be authentic Peking roast duck? It was not easy to find a simple Chinese restaurant. Hua Jin looked around and finally chose a roast duck set meal. It was not authentic, but at least it was roast duck. He took a bite. The taste was average, but it wasn't bad. It was just a far cry from the authentic roast duck. He was worried that Natalia wouldn't be used to the taste, but he didn't expect that Natalia would be so easily satisfied. With delicious food in front of her, she didn't care about her image anymore. Little glutton. Was he so easily satisfied? Hua Jin cursed in his heart. How bad was the food in the United States? That was why the little fellow was so satisfied with such a set of barbecue duck. Natalia ate slowly, chewing and swallowing slowly. Since they had plenty of time after lunch, Hua Jin took Natalia to the shops in the airport. There were many duty-free shops in the airport. It just so happened that the skincare products at home were used up, so Hua Jin bought some goods. Natalia was bored. She couldn't understand what the delicate bottles and jars on the shelves were for. It wasn't pretty, and it couldn't be eaten. Therefore, she pestered Hua Jin to leave. Hua Jin was queuing up to pay the bill. Seeing that it was almost his turn, he coaxed, "Wait for me. Okay? Just a while, I'll be done soon." But it's so stuffy here. There were many people in the duty-free shop. The crowd was crowded, and the air was muddy. Chapter 4164. Natalia was not used to the air here, so she said to Hua Jin, "I'll wait for you outside. Okay?" Outside. Hua Jin looked outside the door hesitantly, feeling a little uneasy. Natalia said, "Don't worry. I won't run around. Besides, didn't you say that it'll be soon?" Hua Jin thought for a moment and nodded. "You promised me that you won't run around." Huh? If she got lost and Gong Jia asked about it, he would lose his head. Natalia ran out, and Hua Jin watched as she sat on the bench outside the door. Only then did he feel at ease and continue queuing. Natalia waited outside the door, feeling bored. The waiting time was especially long and boring. She thought that she had waited for more than 10 minutes. When she came back to her senses, she stood up and walked to the electronic clock in the hall to look at it. She realized that only 5 minutes had passed. Ding dong. Passengers heading to the Maldives. Please take note that your flight DH965 from Eastern Airlines is now boarding. Please bring your personal belongings with you. Oh no, it's too late. It's too late. Not far away, a panicked voice was heard. Before Natalia could react, she was knocked to the ground by a tremendous force. The knitted hat on her head flew far away. Natalia fell to the ground, her back slamming hard against the marble floor. She was in excruciating pain. The person who had bumped into her was a middle-aged woman. It was obvious that she would not make it in time for the flight. Even though she had knocked down the child, she stopped to take a look but did not come over to help her. She did not even look at her as she left in a hurry. Whispers broke out around her. They were secretly angry that this woman had no manners. Even if she knocked down an adult, she should be concerned about their well-being, let alone a child. She was too rude. By the time Natalia realized that the culprit had run far away, she felt a little depressed. She felt that the bones in her back were about to break after being knocked down so hard for no reason. She stood up and looked at the knitted hat that had fallen in the distance. Just as she was about to walk over and pick it up, a young man was one step ahead of her and picked it up first. Natalia stood where she was in a daze. She silently observed the gentle young man in front of her. The young man was wearing a snow-white shirt, which made his skin look as white as jade. His figure was tall and slender, and he seemed to be in his teens. His neat black hair outlined the outline of his thin face even more clearly. He turned around and looked at Natalia, who was still standing at the same spot. He smirked and walked up to her. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Natalia's purple eyes and was stunned. He had seen many mixed-race children with blue eyes, green eyes, amber eyes, and even pure black eyes. but he had never seen such beautiful purple eyes. Her purple eyes were as pure as beautiful gems. Natalia's eyes flashed. She looked at the hat in his hand and immediately reminded him, "Big brother, this is my hat." The youth immediately reacted, but his gaze was still unable to move away from her eyes for a long time. Natalia looked at him with displeasure and snatched the hat from his hand. "Why do you keep staring at me?" Chapter 41:65. "It's nothing." The young man reacted and asked cautiously, "Are you hurt from the fall?" Sensing his concern, Natalia's sharpness faded a little. She nodded gently and said vaguely, "I'm fine." At this moment, a woman's slightly worried voice came from behind. "Lin Shi, why did you run so fast?" Chu Ho walked over nervously. She passed through the crowd and finally found him. However, when she saw the girl standing in front of him, she was momentarily stunned. She also saw Natalia's purple eyes. A normal person's first reaction would naturally be surprise. After all, violet eyes were not commonly seen. He was considered to be well-informed and had seen countless people, but this was the first time she had seen purple eyes. Looking at the beautiful little girl in front of her, she was momentarily stunned. It was normal for her to be in a daze. Behind them, the main group had also arrived. Gu Jinglian held Xiao Bao's hand, and a lot of people from the Gu family who were worried about sending them off, such as Uncle Fu and Aunt Fu. It was as if Gu Jinglian had to go on a vacation with his family and was worried that his enemies would come and bomb the airport. Ever since Chu Ho gave birth to a pair of twins for him, she had been breastfeeding after her confinement. The honeymoon that Gu Jinglian had promised her was delayed again and again. Originally, Chu Ho did not have much expectations for the honeymoon. She did not say that she had been to many places, but she had visited many places, even if it was in the name of a business trip. However, slowly, her friends began to post photos of the trip on their WeChat moments. The blue sky and the sea stretched as far as the eye could see. Chu Ho, who was in Shanghai, seemed to have not seen the blue sky for a long time. Therefore, the idea of going on a honeymoon was put on the agenda again. During this period, Gu Jinglian had finally settled the work at hand and entrusted the two Xiao Bao's care. Therefore, he decided to go on a vacation to Saipan. Gu Jinglian was initially a little guilty. After all, the honeymoon had been delayed for so long, and it was only now that it was settled. However, Chu Ho did not mind. At least it was put on the agenda, wasn't it? Gu Jinglian and Xiao Bao walked over. Xiao Bao saw Lin Shi at first glance, but then he was quickly attracted by the little girl in front of him. He narrowed his eyes until he saw clearly that Natalia's eyes were indeed purple. He was surprised. "Wow, what beautiful eyes," he sighed with emotion. However, Natalia was not used to his words, even though he thought they were praises. Since she was young, she knew that she was different from other children. In terms of background, she was an orphan. Since she was young, she did not have a father or a mother, let alone a father or a mother. In terms of appearance, she grew up in China, but she looked different from many Chinese children. Her eyes, in particular, always caused her to be criticized. She had always been treated as an anomaly by the other children. Therefore, when others looked at her kindly, she would feel very uneasy. Coincidentally, Hua Jin walked out. When Natalia saw him, she immediately threw herself into his arms, feeling wronged. Hua Jin hugged her tightly. He did not know what was going on. When he looked up, he was dumbfounded. Gu. President Gu. Chapter 41:66. He was shocked. He didn't expect to bump into Gu Jinglian at the airport. Gu Jinglian looked at him and then at Natalia, who was in his arms. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. "Is this your daughter?" Hua Jin was speechless. Should he admit it? Hua Jin lowered his head to look at Natalia's aggrieved expression. He did not know what was going on, nor did he know if she had been bullied. Hence, he nodded. Yes. Gu Jinglian didn't look surprised when he found out that she was his daughter. Hua Jin squatted down and asked gently, "What's wrong? You don't look happy. Did someone bully you?" Behind him, Gu Linshi immediately explained. "A woman was in a hurry and knocked her down. She left without saying goodbye." So that's what happened? Hua Jin immediately became nervous. Does it hurt? Natalia pursed her lips and nodded gently. Yes. A little. Where does it hurt? Here. Here. Natalia didn't want to talk about her bruised butt, so she rubbed her elbow. When she fell, she instinctively supported herself. Hence, her elbow was bruised. Hua Jin rolled up her sleeves and scrutinized her seriously. It was bruised. His heart ached. He gently breathed on it but didn't rub it. He only felt at ease after making sure that it wasn't fractured. He couldn't rub it now. Otherwise, a small bruise would expand after being rubbed. Hua Jin carried Natalia and couldn't help but sigh. You're so strong. You didn't even cry. You're amazing. Natalia pouted. She was obviously unhappy. She hugged Hua Jin's shoulder and said, I don't want to be here anymore. Okay. Then let's wait over there. Okay? Natalia nodded. Hua Jin nodded at Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho before he carried Natalia to the departure lounge. Xiao Bao became excited. Wow, that big sister is so pretty. Lin, she snorted. Maybe she's younger than you, but she's so pretty. I see that you keep staring at her. As if you're obsessed with her. Gu Linchi blushed and immediately retorted, Don't talk nonsense. Why are you blushing? Xiao Bao circled him curiously and muttered, Why are you so shy? Ha ha ha. Chu Ho couldn't help but burst into laughter. Lin, she pouted and looked at Chu Ho. Mom, can you be a little more reserved? Don't laugh so boldly. Bold and unrestrained? How is that bold and unrestrained? Chu Ho glanced at him. Xiao Bao is right. You did keep staring at that little sister. Have you fallen in love with her? Even Chu Ho was teasing him. Gu Linchi turned his face away and pretended to be dead. Don't play dead. Chu Ho egged him on. If you like a girl, don't let go of the chance. It just so happens that your dad knows that uncle. Gu Linchi's face turned even redder. Don't talk nonsense. I'm just surprised that her eyes are purple. I've never seen such beautiful eyes. Chu Ho agreed when he heard this. Indeed, that girl's eyes are really beautiful. Chapter 41:67. Purple eyes are indeed rare. At least I've never seen one before. Gu Jinglian said, I just arrived. I thought you were the one who bullied her and made her cry. Gu Linchi disagreed. Why would I bully a girl? Although Linchi was young, he had his own set of philosophies. One of them was that boys should never bully girls. Therefore, he would never bully other girls. Gu Jinglian said to Chu Ho, Wait here for me. I'll go and get the boarding pass done. Okay. Chu Ho chuckled. Gu Jinglian had to do everything himself now. Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir finally arrived at the last moment of the check-in process. When they finally boarded the plane and entered the first-class cabin, Mu Yaja was surprised to find that the first-class cabin was full of familiar faces. The first-class cabin was divided into two sides. On the left side were Mu Yaja, Yun Shishir, Yu Yueyao, Xiaoi Chen, and Lisa. On the other hand, Gu Jinglian's family of 4 occupied the seats on the other side. The two families were separated by an aisle. When Mu Yaja boarded the plane, he saw Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho staring at them. It's you? It's you? He didn't expect to meet him here. Gu Jinglian raised his eyebrows and sized up Mu Yaja. He snorted coldly. Where are you going? Mu Yaja said, Saipan. Gu Jinglian was speechless. Mu Yaja found it interesting. Which hotel are you staying at? Where are you staying? Siren's Hotel. They said it almost in unison. Gu Jinglian's expression was obviously very awkward. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and he snorted coldly. What a coincidence. Are you on your honeymoon? Yes. Mu Yaja nodded and didn't pay too much attention to him. He carried Yueyao to the seat and then began to urge the little guys to fasten their seatbelts. As the parent of 4 children, Mu Yaja was very busy. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, was sitting on a chair and eating the fruit salad that Mu Yaja had bought for her at the airport. The Siren's Hotel was the most luxurious hotel in Saipan. The hotel provided seaside vacation villas. Each villa faced the sea and had a large private sea area. Living in such a villa could be said to be looking forward to a perfect vacation. However, the cost of a perfect vacation was not discounted. The cost of this villa was about 500,000 yuan per night. Wuxia booked a villa by the sea so that he could have a quiet vacation. On the other hand, Wuxia didn't expect that Gu Jinglian would book a villa next to him. It was also a villa by the sea. He didn't expect to be neighbors on vacation. Wuxia lifted the curtains of the floor-to-ceiling window of the master suite, opened the window, and walked out to the balcony. He happened to see Gu Jinglian leaning against the railing and smoking on the balcony opposite. The two men looked at each other silently again. Obviously, they didn't expect that they would book a villa next door to the hotel for their vacation. It was simply like a ghost that won't go away. Like a ghost that won't go away, the two men said almost at the same time. Then, as soon as they finished speaking, they stared at each other with disdain. Gu Jinglian put out the cigarette butt and turned to enter the room. Chapter 4168. This guy was really extraordinarily difficult to deal with. They had just gotten off the plane and everyone was very tired. Moreover, they were still jet-lagged. Hence, the four little brats were extremely sleepy when they checked into the hotel. After Yun Shirshir coaxed them into bed, she finally had some time alone with Wuxia. Wuxia used the rest of his energy to spend a sweet night with her. After that, the two of them hugged each other contentedly and fell asleep. Meanwhile, in the villa next door, Chu Ho and Gu Jinglian had extraordinary energy. Chu Ho had just checked into the hotel when Xiao Bao complained that he was sleepy. Due to the time difference in the country, it was already late at night when they arrived at the hotel. Hence, Chu Ho coaxed Xiao Bao to sleep. Lin Shi, on the other hand, was able to adapt to the time difference. Hence, Chu Ho and Gu Jinglian took Lin Shi to the beach for a walk. Stepping on the fine sand and kicking the waves, Chu Ho held Gu Jinglian's hand and enjoyed a rare moment of peace. Ever since she gave birth to the twins, Chu Ho felt that she was almost squeezed dry by the two little brats during the breastfeeding period. Ordinary people would not understand the torment of the breastfeeding period. Even after the breastfeeding period, the children still needed someone to accompany them. They would always wake up crying every day and it was torturous. She loved and hated these two little brats at the same time. She loved them because they were her biological children after all. As a mother, how could she not love them? She hated them because Chu Ho was deeply tortured by these two little crybabies. Hence, she had to quickly escape for a period of time to avoid trouble. Now she finally had some peace. Although it would be a lie to say that she did not miss them, she felt more relaxed than ever. Gu Jinglian also felt sorry for her. He knew that she had been busy for a long time after the breastfeeding period for the four children. When he saw this, he also felt sorry for her. Hence, he put the honeymoon on the agenda so that she could relax for a period of time. After all, she could not put the cart before the horse and confuse the meaning of marriage for the sake of the children after marriage. Other than family, marriage was more about the feelings between husband and wife. During that period of time, he was busy with work and rarely spent time with her. Thus, he thought of using the honeymoon as an opportunity to make up for their relationship. He thought that she would feel sleepy after the plane landed. However, he was wrong. Who was Chu Ho? She used to be an Interpol anti-crime inspector, and her physical fitness was much better than many men. It just so happened that Gu Jinglian was not tired. Chu Ho even teased him. After all, he was an old man. How could he be so good at enduring jet lag? Gu Jinglian was a little unhappy when he heard this. What do you mean an old man? He was clearly still very young. All right, Gu Jinglian was a little unhappy, so he whispered in her ear, "You dare to doubt my physical fitness? I'll teach you a lesson tonight." When Chu Ho heard this, his face turned slightly red, but he laughed helplessly. "I was just joking. And you actually took it seriously? Are you a child?" "Yes, I'm childish. I'm hopeless." When Chu Ho heard this, she could not do anything about it. Just as she was laughing, Gu Jinglian walked over and gently held her hand. "Do you like it here?" Gu Jinglian's voice became gentle. Chu Ho said sincerely, "I like it. It's very quiet. Even with the sea breeze, I can feel my heart calming down. Then we can come here often in the future." Chapter 4169. No, I won't. Gu Jinglian said. I want to buy a villa here. In the future, when we have time, we can still come over and play for as long as we want. As long as you like it. Chu Ho couldn't help but feel a little flattered. Although Gu Jinglian doted on her immensely after their marriage, it was a little too much for him to say that he wanted to buy a villa here just because she said that she liked it here. Chu Ho asked tentatively, the villas here should be very expensive, right? I heard that some of the private islands here can be sold. Chu Ho was speechless when she heard this. I heard that the villas here are very expensive. A private island must be very expensive. Gu Jinglian smiled and said, if you like it, it has its value. Chu Ho couldn't help but laugh when she heard this. Actually, there's no need for that. As long as you have the intention. If you want to come here again in the future, you can just find another chance to come. How many more chances will you have to come here in the future? This money is too extravagant and wasteful. Gu Jinglian didn't think much of it when he heard this, but he didn't take it too seriously. After all, Chu Ho was Chu Ho and he was him. There was a huge gap between the two people's spending habits. Xiao Bao had once had a very difficult time. That was a period when she only had a basic salary of $2,000 a month and a few $100s of overtime pay. But she had to raise Xiao Bao alone. One could imagine how difficult that period of time was. When she was young, Chu Ho had also experienced a homeless life. She had stayed in a refugee camp and even a small piece of bread had to be taken from others. Sometimes she could only snatch scraps. As a result, she could only endure a night of hunger. Therefore, she had always thought that money was very precious. After marrying Gu Jinglian, she could be said to have reached the heavens in a single bound. What did it mean to become rich overnight? This was it. Gu Jinglian was very wealthy. Even Gu Jinglian didn't know how much wealth he had. However, she couldn't get used to living an extravagant life. She was an optimistic person by nature and was good at finding joy in hardship. She was used to living a hard life and always felt that she was very poor psychologically. Living a down-to-earth life made her feel at ease. Chu Ho was a very independent woman and didn't like to rely on others. Gu Jinglian didn't allow her to go out to work because he thought that the Gu family's business. However, Chu Ho wasn't used to living and took a long time to get used to it. Gu Jinglian was different. When he was in the past, he was in primary school. Gu's family was his tea. Old Master Gu was willing to give him more than $100 bills a day. This was a treatment that no one else had ever received. TSSS Tuzes. Teet teet he teet teet. The difference could be seen at a glance. Therefore, Gu Jinglian, who grew up in a privileged environment, naturally didn't have the concept of money. To him, a Gucci bag that cost tens of thousands of dollars was equivalent to lunch in the eyes of ordinary people. Ever since she married Gu Jinglian, Chu Ho's words and actions gave Gu Jinglian a headache. Chapter 4170. She was addicted to online shopping. Ever since she learned how to shop online, she was used to going online to search for quality goods. She would buy them in bulk. Gu Jinglian went to the mall to buy her a few luxurious clothes, bags, and shoes. Gucci, Christina, etc. However, Chu Ho did not want them after wearing them a few times. She was too lazy to dress herself up. Those branded clothes and bags were often the most useless, especially a silk dress from Chanel. Just a slight movement of the arm would cause it to unravel. Chu Ho despised it. How could such expensive clothes be so useless? Although she knew that people who could afford such expensive clothes would not be calculative about such things, she still despised it. As a woman, she actually complained to Gu Jinglian that she had spent so much time shopping and spent so much energy just to buy a few clothes that could not be worn more than a few times. She felt very angry. After that, Gu Jinglian did not force her anymore. Since two people were married, they should respect each other. It was basic respect. They respected the concept of consumption. Therefore, after Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho got married, he followed her when it came to the concept of consumption. Even his own concept of consumption was gradually influenced by her. In layman's terms, old Master Gu had become much more down-to-earth. In the past, he did not want luxury goods. Now, when he occasionally received clothes that Chu Ho bought for him online, he would be happy to try them on. If they looked good, he would buy them back. After a while, Gu Jinglian also got used to clothes that cost a few hundred yuan. One had to know that to him, clothes that cost a few hundred yuan were no different from clothes that cost a few cents in the eyes of ordinary people. In short, the huge difference in concept caused by money was very big. Both of them could adapt very well. Gu Jinglian held Chu Ho's hand and walked quietly by the beach. Gu Linshi was originally following behind them. However, when he found something new and pestered them to look at it, he bitterly realized that he had been abandoned. No matter whether he called out to Gu Jinglian or Chu Ho, the two of them acted as if they did not hear him. They only had eyes for each other. They had already forgotten about him. This little third wheel. Gu Linshi also gave up. Forget it. Let the two of them be entangled. After all, she heard that Dad wanted to take this opportunity to revisit the honeymoon period with Mom. He didn't want to get involved. Gu Linshi was smart, so she went back to the hotel alone and called Gu Jinglian, Chu Ho. He was more sensible. He quietly returned to the hotel and even knew to send a text message so that they wouldn't worry. Chu Ho and Gu Jinglian walked for a long time, but they did not seem to notice anything. After walking for a long time, Chu Ho realized that his little tail was gone. He took out his phone and was about to make a call when he received a message from Gu Linshi. Seeing that he had returned to the hotel, Chu Ho's heart was filled with guilt. She had been so focused on walking and chatting with Gu Jinglian that she had forgotten about this guy. Gu Jinglian said helplessly, "It's okay. Linshi is very old. He has his own thoughts. I think he wants to give us more space." On the surface, he said this, but in his heart, he was criticizing this kid. At least he knew what was good for him. Just now, when Linshi called out to him, he heard it but deliberately ignored it. He thought that if this kid knew what he was doing, he would not disturb them anymore. Obviously, this kid knew what he was doing. Chapter 4171. Chu Ho said to Gu Jinglian, "Why don't we go back earlier too? Don't be too late. The children are already awake, but we're still asleep. If the children want to play, we won't have the energy to do so." However, Gu Jinglian said, "Lin Shi is already so old. He'll definitely bring Xiao Bao to play. We might not like the things that children like to play. Why don't we let them play while we go on our honeymoon?" Chu Ho was speechless. So they were really here to make up for their honeymoon? Chu Ho muttered, "Don't tell me. You didn't want to bring them along in the first place?" Humph. At the mention of this, Gu Jinglian was very displeased. He didn't even mention this to Lin Shi and Xiao Bao. It was Chu Ho who had spoken out of turn and told Lin Shi. Lin Shi thought that Gu Jinglian wanted them to go on a vacation together, so he told Xiao Bao excitedly. In the end, Gu Jinglian happened to see that the two of them had already started to pack their luggage in full swing. What else could he say? He could only suppress his anger and pack the two of them up. However, Lin Shi was still considered tactful. On the plane, he took the initiative to take care of Xiao Bao. If anything happened to Xiao Bao, he would take care of it. Gu Jinglian was quite satisfied with this. When they returned to the hotel, Lin Shi was already asleep. Xiao Bao was also sound asleep. Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho were affectionate for a while before they couldn't resist the fatigue and fell asleep. The next day, Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho woke up and walked to the other bedroom to take a look. They found that Lin Shi and Xiao Bao were not there. When they asked about Room, the cleaner from Room Clean said that the two children had run to the beach to play volleyball as soon as they woke up. However, the cleaner also mentioned that the 4 children in the other row were also there. The group split into 2 groups and played beach volleyball. Gu Jinglian found it interesting. It had to be said that these 2 guys really knew how to entertain themselves. Seeing that they didn't wake up, Lin Shi took Xiao Bao to play. After Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho ate some food and headed to the beach, they saw Gu Linshi and Xiao Bao standing on an empty beach. Opposite them were Yu Yu and Lisa. The 4 players glared at each other. The ball was in Lin Shi's hands, but Gu Jinglian's eyes were sharp. He could feel that Lin Shi's hands were trembling slightly. Chu Ho also noticed this and walked over worriedly. Lin Shi. When Lin Shi heard this, he turned around. When he saw them, he was a little surprised. "Dad, Mom." As soon as Xiao Bao turned around and saw Chu Ho holding his wrist, he immediately threw himself into her arms, feeling wronged. "Mom! Woo woo woo." The little guy was bluffing and crying, but he didn't cry for real. Although he felt wronged, he wasn't so weak that he would cry. "They're bullying us." "Woo woo woo." "Bullying? That's impossible." She knew Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir's characters. She had met them a few times before, and she could tell that the couple was very well-mannered. When it came to educating children, they were naturally well-mannered. How could they bully other people's children? "Don't listen to his nonsense." Lin Shi sighed and mumbled in a low voice, "They're not bullying us. We can't play as well as others." "What's wrong?" Chu Ho finally understood. "You lost to them in volleyball?" Chapter 4172. If it's just a loss, then it's fine." Lin Shi said awkwardly, "I can catch the ball. But it's too strong. If I insist on catching it, then my wrist will feel a burning pain." Chu He's face was full of questions. He looked at the other side. Yu and Lisa. Both of them were still young and one of them was a girl. Yu was younger than Lin Shi. He looked at Lisa, whom he had never seen before, but she looked thin and weak. Chu Ho could not believe it. "It can't be. You actually lost to them? One of them is younger than you and the other is a girl. She's so skinny. How can she be so strong?" Xiao Bao panicked. "It's true. She's so strong. I saw her wearing a singlet just now. Don't be fooled by her skinny figure. She's got muscles underneath." Lin Shi was indignant. After all, as a boy, losing to a girl was an embarrassing thing. However, whether he was willing to admit it or not, it was the truth. Lisa did not like to talk, but whenever she jumped up and spiked the ball, he was worried that she would accidentally hit the volleyball. Xiao Bao had caught her ball once and was so scared that he started trembling. He did not dare to catch her ball again. Lin Shi was naturally unwilling to admit defeat. Hence, when it was Lisa's turn to hit the ball, even if he knew that she was strong, he would still try to catch it. When he caught the ball, both his wrists were trembling badly. He was afraid that he would not be able to continue playing. Lisa also realized that Lin Shi would not be able to catch her ball. She felt that it was boring and a little disappointing, so she stopped playing. However, they were halfway through the game and the winner had not been decided yet. Lin Shi refused to admit defeat, nor did he want to admit defeat, so he insisted on continuing. Lisa did not know whether to laugh or cry. She asked him instead, "Can you continue playing?" Lin Shi bit his lip hard and did not speak. At this moment, Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho arrived. To be honest, he probably couldn't continue fighting. Otherwise, his wrist would definitely swell up. However, he did not want to lose to a girl. He was a boy and Lisa was a girl. If he had lost to Yu, it would have been fine. However, he could not accept losing to Lisa. Lisa rubbed her hair helplessly and said seriously, "To be honest, I admit defeat. We can't continue this match. You're injured." So, Lisa casually threw the volleyball to the side and stretched her body. She had only used a third of her strength when she was playing volleyball, but the two kids couldn't take it anymore. Normally, people with great strength wouldn't know how to control their strength even if they wanted to deliberately conserve it. Because for Lisa, she was already cautious enough. Lisa even had the illusion that Lin Shi and Xiao Bao were glass dolls that would break if they were not careful. Lin Shi was unwilling to give up. She pursed her lips and looked unhappy. Chu Ho was a little curious. How terrifying was her strength that even Lin Shi was injured. She suddenly took a step forward and looked at Lisa's back. She smiled and said, "Why don't we play a game?" Lisa came back to her senses and looked at her in surprise. "Why? I want to see how strong you are." Lisa's lips twitched when she heard that. Chu Ho hurriedly said, "Don't worry, I just want to learn from you. I'm not seeking revenge." All right? Chapter 4173. The corners of Yu's lips twitched. He could vaguely feel that there was a hint of tension in the volleyball match. Lisa said to him, "Go to one side. I'll have a match with her." This, Xiao Yichen thought to himself helplessly. Is there really a point to this match? No matter who wins, it won't be a dignified victory, right? Lisa would still be fine. If Chu-ho won, he would think that she was an adult and would stoop to the level of a child. If she lost, he would think that it was too embarrassing for an adult to lose to a child. Lin, she said hesitantly, "Forget it. I admit defeat. Don't misunderstand." With a smile on her face, he walked to Lin Shi's side and picked up the volleyball from the ground. Dusting off the sand on it, she said with a smile, "I just wanted to see how strong a girl can be to almost hurt a boy's hand." Lisa was expressionless when she heard this. "He was the one who wanted to play with me. I saw that he was injured and didn't want to play anymore. He doesn't want to admit defeat." Lisa was naturally competitive, especially in a situation where she could win. She would never admit defeat unless someone had the ability to convince her. "Then, can you let me have a taste of your skills?" Chu-ho asked tentatively. Lisa was in a daze. She felt that the face in front of her seemed familiar. Vermilion bird? A noun flashed through her mind. There was a vermilion bird in the Hurricane Group. There was also a vermilion bird in the International Criminal Police Organization. One was a black vermilion bird while the other was a white vermilion bird. Everyone used this name to distinguish between the two. Lisa was a junior and had never seen white vermilion bird in person. However, she remembered seeing a picture of white vermilion bird. She was smiling and her eyes were full of confidence. She looked very similar to the woman in front of her. She couldn't help but feel suspicious. Just as she was in a daze, Chu-ho couldn't help but remind her, "Are you ready?" Lisa immediately reacted. She took half a step back and bowed slightly. She immediately returned to her battle stance. Chu-ho served. She held the volleyball up high and made a standard serve. The volleyball flew over the railing. Lisa's reaction was quick. Like a cat, she darted forward and used her considerable jumping ability to hit the volleyball back. A special volleyball match was about to begin. Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir came back from their walk on the beach and saw this scene. Hua Jin, who was following behind her, saw it as well. Of Xiaoi Chen and Yu were still asleep, and Xiaoi Chen and Yu were still asleep. Of Xiaoi Chen and of Yu of them. Of course. And yo. Xiaoi Chen and Yu of Yu's aunts. And Yu. After taking a stroll around the area, they were greeted by such a sight as soon as they returned. Everyone found it a little novel. Yun Shishir was a little surprised. "What are they doing?" "Volleyball." But Yun Shishir and Hua Jin stared blankly at the two people who were in full swing. The sound of the volleyball hitting the ball was shocking. "This volleyball is too scary." Mu Yaja thought it was interesting. "Let's go and take a look." The group walked to the side. Xiaoi Chen noticed them. Mu Yaja gestured for him to keep quiet and watched silently. Chu-ho and Lisa were evenly matched. One was a former Interpol officer, while the other was the youngest mercenary in Mercenary Paradise. Both of them were terrifyingly strong. Chapter 4174. Chu-ho, in particular, was shocked. Before she had experienced the match, she could already imagine that Lisa's strength was not weak. Otherwise, Lin Shi's wrist would not have been so injured. However, she did not expect Lisa's strength to be so terrifying. She even felt that this girl's potential was far above hers. As the saying went, the younger generation will surpass us in time. That was the gist of it. As for Lisa, how could she not be surprised? What she did not expect was that Chu-ho's strength would be so great. She looked gentle and weak, but she did not expect that her strength would not be inferior to that of an official mercenary. Because of this, she was even more certain that the woman in front of her must be the governor of the International Criminal Police Force. She was amazing. To be able to compete with a famous character, Lisa's heart was immediately filled with motivation. She was not to be underestimated. Even if it was just a volleyball match, she would give it her all. Lisa was a person who had a strong desire to win. She would either never compete with others, or she would always want to be the best. The game was no exception. After a few rounds, no one was at a disadvantage. The score was maintained at a stalemate, and no one was willing to give way to the other. Even if one party led by a few points, the other party would catch up immediately. Bang! 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 Those who were in the know would know that they were playing volleyball, but those who were not would probably think that there was an explosion. Lisa gradually felt that the volleyball was going soft. It was full of air, but now it felt like it was running out of energy. Not to mention Xiao Chen and Yu Yu, even Gu Jinglian was trembling with fear. Not to mention Yun Shirshir and Hua Jin, who were not far away. Hua Jin asked meekly, "If they play like this, will they break their hands?" Yun Shirshir muttered, "I don't know if Chu Ho will, but I'm sure Lisa won't." "Why? Have you ever seen a child this big lift a 20-kilogram dumbbell like it's a toy?" Yun Shirshir still had some lingering fears. Last time, in the gym at home, she wanted to put away the dumbbells Lisa used for training. In the end, when she bent down to pick them up, she almost sprained her back. So heavy. From then on, she didn't dare to pick up any of Lisa's fitness equipment. If he wasn't careful, his waist would really sprain. Hua Jin muttered, "That's a little too scary." Yun Shirshir was rather curious. "I'm thinking if Yaja were to play volleyball with Gu Jinglian, who would win?" Hua Jin looked at Mu Yaja and then at Gu Jinglian. He said weakly, "Brother-in-law is definitely the best." "Oh, do you think so too?" Mu Yaja could tell that Hua Jin's survival instincts were playing tricks on him. Hua Jin immediately expressed his sincerity. "Of course, I really believe so." Mu Yaja couldn't help but laugh. He said calmly, "I've never played with Gu Jinglian before, but I don't think he's afraid of me." The match had been going on for half an hour. Lisa and Chu Ho were gradually showing signs of fatigue. After such a long time of exhaustion, their bodies were made of flesh and blood, not metal. Their stamina was depleted very quickly. Xiao Chen stopped the match. At this stage of the match, it was obvious who would win and who would lose. Although the scores were about the same, Chu Ho's stamina was obviously running out. Chapter 4175. When Chu Ho heard this, he was indignant, but he still stopped the match. It had to be said that Lisa's stamina was amazing. Before the match, she had already played half the match and had not rested in between. It was not easy for her to fight like this. Xiao Chen had just walked to Lisa's side when Gu Jinglian suddenly said, "Why don't we have a match?" "Huh?" Xiao Chen looked around him and confirmed that Gu Jinglian was challenging him to a match. He was dumbfounded. "Are you serious?" When Gu Jinglian heard this, he said, "Are you scared?" "No." Xiao Chen furrowed his brows in embarrassment and said, "I'm afraid that you'll lose face if you lose to me." Gu Jinglian's face immediately turned pale. Pfft. When Chu Ho heard this, he was overjoyed. Ha ha ha. This sentence sounded arrogant, but Xiao Chen looked really embarrassed, as if he was really worried that Gu Jinglian would lose face if he lost to him. Gu Jinglian was speechless and said, "How can you be so sure that I'll lose to you?" "Because it's true," Xiao Chen said hesitantly. "I don't know how to fix a match." Yu said solemnly, "If Xiao Chen plays, the volleyball will probably explode." Lisa nodded as well. The three children looked at Gu Jinglian sincerely, as if they were thinking about him. When he said this, Gu Jinglian felt very awkward. He was a grown man, yet he had to let a child go easy on him. He said angrily, "You don't have to go easy on me. I might not lose if I play against you." "This isn't a good idea?" Xiao Chen scratched his head in embarrassment and said, You really can't beat me. If I hurt you, Daddy will say that I'm causing trouble again." He did not know that Mu Yaja was standing not far away. When Mu Yaja heard his son say that, he secretly said, "It's okay. Daddy won't scold you. Trample on him." Yun Shirshir glanced at her man coldly. Why did he become so childish at this time? Gu Jinglian was unwilling to give up. He felt that he was being looked down upon by these three children, so he insisted on having a go. "Let's just play one round then." In the worst-case scenario, he would not use as much force. Xiao Chen picked up the ball and served it casually. Gu Jinglian was displeased when he saw that Xiao Chen did not receive the ball. "Are you looking down on me?" "No, I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to connect it." Gu Jinglian's lips twitched again. "Play well for me." As he spoke, he served a powerful ball. When Xiao Chen saw that Gu Jinglian was serious, he quickly became serious. He rushed forward, jumped up, and spiked the ball beautifully. He immediately hooked the ball into the net. Gu Jinglian rushed forward and saved the ball. The two of them gradually got into a heated match. Yu muttered speechlessly at the side. Why is he acting like a child when he's already an adult? Lisa panted for a moment before she finally managed to catch her breath. Chu Ho, who was beside her, was so tired that she squatted on the ground. She had not exercised so much in a long time. Her heartbeat could not keep up and she was perspiring all over. However, she truly felt that Lisa's skills were formidable. What was even more impressive was that this little girl already had such terrifying strength at such a young age. It was obvious that she had received professional training. She was young, but her skills were not yet mature. How scary. Chapter 4176. Just as everyone was engrossed in watching the match, Xiaoyichen jumped and spiked the ball. Gu Jinglian reached out to catch the ball, but at that moment, he felt a spark of electricity and he couldn't help but withdraw his hand. This was the body's self-defense mechanism. No matter how strong the ball was, if he were to receive it, he would probably dislocate his shoulder or break his bones. The body had a self-defense mechanism. Gu Jinglian instinctively felt that there was no way he could receive the ball, so he instinctively withdrew his hand. The ball immediately bounced onto the cement beside him. There was a loud bang, followed by the sound of an explosion. The volleyball rolled onto the sand, but it was obviously deflated. It exploded. This was the first time Chu Ho had seen the ball explode from a child. He was stunned. Gu Jinglian was also stunned. He knew that Xiaoyichen was very good and strong, but he had never imagined that Xiaoyichen's strength was so terrifying. Yun Shishir and Hua Jin were also stunned. The whole world seemed to have returned to silence. Xiaoyichen looked at the broken volleyball regretfully. His gaze fell on Gu Jinglian, but he saw that the man was still standing there expressionlessly. He only harumphed and said, "Not bad. I lost." Wow. Xiaoyichen stared at the man in front of him in disbelief. He had never thought that Gu Jinglian would admit defeat. Only Chu Ho and Yu saw that Gu Jinglian's hand, which was hidden behind his back, was trembling slightly. His wrist was obviously swollen. Chu Ho walked over and carefully probed. "Your hand is swollen?" "Shu." Gu Jinglian glanced at him. "Give me some face." This man, at such a critical moment, he was still thinking about face. However, on second thought, it was human nature. Although he admitted defeat, he couldn't let the other party feel that he had lost too badly. A 1.8-meter tall man playing volleyball with a child's size ended up straining his wrist. He would feel embarrassed if he told others about it. Gu Jinglian wanted to save face. "You should be okay, right? It's just swollen. It's fine." "Xiaoyichen, can you?" Lisa looked dejectedly at the ball that was slowly deflating. "Can't you hit it more gently? My only volleyball is broken. What am I going to play in the future?" Xiaoyichen said angrily, "Buy more." "That's easy for you to say. Do they sell volleyball on this island?" "Yes," Yu said. "There's a convenience store near the hotel that sells beach volleyball." Xiaoyichen said embarrassedly, "Lisa, don't be angry. I'll compensate you." Xiaoyichen patiently coaxed Lisa while Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho exchanged glances. Were these two children the reincarnation of monsters? So strong. They were too violent. It had to be said that Xiaoyichen and Lisa were inexplicably compatible. They were equally violent and had monstrous strength. Chu Ho and Gu Jinglian respectively experienced the terrifying strength of the two children. Then, they looked at Xiao Bao, who was stunned. Chu Ho didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Xiao Bao had already seen what was going on. Meanwhile, Lin Shi's mind was almost stuck as he watched the scene unfold. Fortunately, he had withdrawn from the game in time. He also had reason to believe that Lisa had really given in when they were fighting. Otherwise, he would have lost even more miserably. Even though he was unwilling to admit defeat, he had to admit defeat. Chapter 4177. Of course, they could not play volleyball. It happened to be dinner time, so Gu Jinglian booked a candlelight dinner and planned to relive the sweetness of their marriage with Chu Ho. At dusk, the beach, the setting sun, the candlelight, and the classic foie gras filet mignon quietly waited for the arrival of the night. Such a scene was very beautiful just by imagining it. Gu Jinglian had put a lot of thought into this trip. Since they were on vacation, they had to do everything perfectly. He was a perfectionist. Therefore, as long as he wanted to do something well, there was no excuse or reason why he couldn't do it well. Chu Ho, on the other hand, had put a lot of thought into him. When the candlelight dinner was ready, Chu Ho was still worrying about what delicious food there was on the island. She was hungry, and her head was full of steak and hamburgers. Gu Jinglian sent the two children to other restaurants on the island to eat with the bodyguards. Then, he happily prepared to have a candlelight dinner with Chu Ho. Lin Shi knew his intentions, so she did not say anything and promised to take good care of Xiao Bao. Then, she held Xiao Bao's hand and walked away, coaxing and cajoling her. Gu Jinglian was looking forward to the romantic candlelight dinner. He said that he wanted to give Chu Ho a surprise, but just now he held her hand and walked to the beach. Chu Ho saw the small dining table from afar. It was only big enough for two people to sit face to face, and there were snacks and beautiful candlesticks on the table. Chu Ho widened her eyes in surprise. This is a candlelight dinner. Gu Jinglian looked at her affectionately. Do you like it? Chu Ho was stunned for a moment. Then she turned around and looked up at him. She smiled and squinted her eyes. I like it. She tiptoed, put her arms around his shoulders, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Although this man was always disliked by her for not being romantic enough, occasionally, he would deliberately create a romantic surprise. She had also fantasized about their romantic honeymoon. Although it had been delayed a lot, it did not stop her from looking forward to their honeymoon. Gu Jinglian held her hand and sat down. After the two of them sat down, the candlelight dinner officially began. Just as the main course was being served one after another, Gu Jinglian suddenly caught a whiff of smoke. After him, Chu Ho also caught a whiff of smoke. Gu Jinglian did not know where the smoky smell came from at first. It was the unique smoky smell of barbecue. The smoky smell was mixed with the aroma of barbecued meat. He frowned slightly and looked in the direction of the smoke, only to find that there was a nervous voice coming from the courtyard that was only a wall away from his villa. Ah no, it's too hot. It's burnt. It seems to be on fire. From the voice, it seemed to be Yun Shirshir's voice. Then, Xiaoi Chen and Lisa's voices could be heard. I told you that you put too much oil on it, but you didn't believe me. It's easy to catch fire like this. Oh no, it's burnt. It's probably inedible. Throw it aside. Sob, sob, my chicken skewers. You still have the nerve to sob. If you didn't put so much oil on it, who would be burnt? It's my first time barbecuing. Gu Jinglian was speechless. These guys were actually barbecuing at the seaside. Moreover, this group of fellows actually made the smoke so big that it spread to the walls of his courtyard. He was eating Western food. They were getting married. The barbecue next door was a mess. Chapter 4178. Gu Jinglian was so angry that he was about to explode. Chu Ho also knew that the smell of smoke was probably coming from next door. It seemed that she could also vaguely smell the oysters. She was a little hungry, but when she realized that Gu Jinglian was looking at her meaningfully, she immediately smiled and said, It's okay. We'll eat our food. It won't affect us. It won't affect us? Gu Jinglian narrowed his eyes and was a little unhappy. The smell of their smoke had already drifted to his nose. How could this not affect them? Were they deliberately causing trouble? Gu Jinglian's expression became more and more ugly. When Chu Ho saw this, she said helplessly, Don't spoil the mood. I think the atmosphere of barbecued barbecue is quite good. Oh? Then you think that a candlelight dinner is not as good as a barbecued barbecue? Chu Ho simply remained silent. It was obvious that Gu Jinglian's rare good mood had been ruined by the smell of smoke. It felt like Gu Jinglian and Mu Yaja were two men eyeing each other covetously. After all, two tigers could not live on the same mountain. Chu Ho did not want to cause any trouble, so she carefully comforted him. Don't be angry. I've already felt your intentions. Nothing is absolutely perfect, but Gu Jinglian put down his knife and fork with a livid expression. Chu Ho did not dare to speak. At this moment, Gu Jinglian suddenly heard Xiao Bao's noisy voice from next door. Wow, this is delicious. What is this? This is a scallop. It seemed to be Lin Shi's voice. Gu Jinglian's expression was one of disbelief. Why did Lin Shi and Xiao Bao's voices appear next door? What was going on? Chu Ho was also a little surprised. Didn't you say that Xiao Bao and Lin Shi have already settled down and are going to the restaurant on the island for dinner? Gu Jinglian stood up in confusion and walked towards the source of the sound. When Chu Ho saw him stand up, he immediately got up and followed closely behind. The two villas were separated by a snow-white railing. Through the fence, one could see the scene in the private courtyard opposite. Gu Jinglian walked over and was speechless when he saw Xiao Bao and Lin Shi, the two clowns, jumping around the 3 barbecue grills. The yard was very big, so it was more than enough to set up 3 barbecue grills. It was Xiao Bao's first time cuffing barbecue, so he was very excited. In order to prepare for the barbecue, Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir spent the whole afternoon preparing and finally finished. Other than some vegetarian dishes, there were also beef, bacon, pork, and most of the ingredients were seafood. Living by the sea, eating by the sea. The seafood here was caught by the local fishermen of Saipan, so it was very fresh. The seafood that was cuffed was very plump and tender. Chu Ho walked to Gu Jinglian's side and followed his gloomy gaze. She immediately saw Xiao Bao and Lin Shi's figures, and the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. Gu Jinglian was angry. Gu Chengzi, he roared angrily. Xiao Bao, who was separated by a fence, shuddered and immediately stood at attention. He subconsciously looked around and did not know where the sound came from. It was not until Lin Shi saw Gu Jinglian's figure that he tugged at the corner of his shirt and pointed in the direction that he saw Gu Jinglian. Gu Jinglian's face darkened even more. How could he have given birth to such a stupid son? Dad! Xiao Bao waved at him. Come on. Let's play together. Gu Jinglian's face turned even paler. Chapter 4179. Compared to Xiao Bao's excitement, Lin Shi felt inexplicably uneasy. He had a feeling that Gu Jinglian's expression was not good. He was sensitive enough to sense that his father did not seem to like Uncle Mu Yaja very much. Originally, he and Xiao Bao had been taken out to eat at a restaurant on the island, but when they passed by Mu Yaja's private villa, they bumped into Yun Shishir. Yun Shishir warmly invited him and Xiao Bao to barbecue. He had never barbecued before, so he couldn't resist the temptation and agreed. In the end, he was so happy that he forgot about home. He didn't expect that he would be lured here. Yun Shishir saw that Lin Shi and Xiao Bao were standing still. She followed their gaze and saw Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho's voices. She smiled and walked over. She looked at Chu Ho and then at Gu Jinglian. She smiled and said, "Do you want to join us?" Chu Ho was just about to nod. She also wanted to barbecue. Most importantly, the aroma of the barbecue was too tempting. It would have been better if they didn't come closer. Once they came closer, the aroma made it impossible for them to resist. However, whether they could join them or not depended on whether Gu Jinglian was willing to do so. She looked up at Gu Jinglian. Gu Jinglian's expression softened a little. If Mu Yaja had come over and asked him if he wanted to join them, he would have rejected him firmly and rolled his eyes at him. However, the person who came was Yun Shishir. He had always been very gentlemanly towards women. Hence, he felt that he would not give other women too much of a hard time. He declined politely. No need. Yun Shishir felt that it was a pity. Why? Isn't it fun to be together as a family? Besides, Xiao Bao and Lin Shi also want to barbecue with you guys. Gu Jinglian's gaze was slightly stunned. He looked at Xiao Bao and Lin Shi, who were not far away, but saw that the two of them couldn't help but cast their hopeful gazes on him. Their faces were full of anticipation. Chu Ho couldn't bear it and sighed. Let's go together. Xiao Bao and Lin Shi want us to join them. Gu Jinglian and Chu Ho looked at each other and finally bit the bullet and agreed. He entered the courtyard. At this time, Yun Shishir had someone set up a barbecue grill. Xiao Bao bows him. Gu Jinglian didn't even look at him and reached out his hand to grab him by the ear. Ouch! Xiao Bao furrowed his brows in pain and his shoulders slumped. Didn't I tell you to eat? Gu Jinglian snapped. What are you doing here? Xiao Bao pouted guiltily and said pitifully, I want to eat barbecue. I don't want to eat alone. It's so much fun to have a barbecue with so many people. What do you mean by eating alone? Didn't Lin Shi accompany you? Xiao Bao snorted. He doesn't count. Lin Shi was speechless. Why didn't he count? Yun Shishir walked over and said, It's fun for children to gather together. Look, there are 4 or 5 children here. If they're together, they won't be lonely. Chu Ho was very touched. His impression of Yun Shishir immediately improved. He could tell that Yun Shishir really liked children. Her gentleness towards Xiao Bao and Lin Shi was definitely not just superficial. Most importantly, she was also very patient with children. Xiao Bao also liked Yun Shishir very much. Lin Shi also liked her very much. Most importantly, that girl was also there. Lin Shi looked in one direction from time to time. That was where Natalia was standing. Chapter 4180. Natalia stood beside Hua Jin and watched him grill the oysters. She was obviously craving them, but she still pretended to be reserved. For some reason, she vaguely felt that someone was looking at her. Natalia's sixth sense was extremely sharp. She turned her head in surprise and saw Lin Shi's gaze on her. She frowned and opened her mouth, but hesitated to speak. Hua Jin saw that she was absent-minded, but he saw that she was looking somewhere else, so he followed her gaze. He saw that Lin Shi kept looking in her direction. Hua Jin's lips twitched. Why does he keep staring at me? Natalia wasn't used to it. She put her arms around her shoulders. It felt weird to be stared at like this. Hua Jin couldn't help but tease her. Because our Natalia is pretty and boys like her. I don't want him to like me. Natalia awkwardly hid behind Hua Jin. At the same time, Yu, who was standing at the side, also noticed the man's deep and meaningful gaze on Natalia. He frowned slightly and couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. He put down the ingredients in his hand and walked to Lin Shi's side. He purposely knocked Lin Shi's shoulder to the side. Lin Shi came back to his senses and looked at Yu, who had appeared behind him without him noticing. What's wrong? Why are you in a daze? Yu glanced at the scallop in his hand. Are your scallops almost burnt? Ha! Gu Linshi quickly lowered his head and looked at the scallop in his hand. Indeed, because it hadn't been taken care of for a long time, it already smelled a little burnt. Oh no! Gu Linshi quickly put the scallop aside with a pair of tongs. Feeling a little lonely. Sigh, it burned again. He couldn't remember how many scallops it was, but it should be the third one. Scallops were really difficult to grill. It was easy to see other people grilling them, but it wasn't easy to grill them yourself. It's burnt again. Yun Shishir walked over, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. How did it get burnt? Before Gu Linshi could say anything, Yu said coldly, Because I was daydreaming. In a daze. Yun Shishir laughed and said, If you're in a daze, it's easy to burn. Got it. I'll be more careful next time. Gu Linshi explained. I was distracted and didn't pay attention. So, it's okay. There are many oysters and scallops here. Remember, you can't eat burnt ones. You'll have diarrhea. Yes. Yun Shishir walked to the side to check on Xiao Chen. After Yun Shishir left, Gu Linshi looked at Yu strangely. She felt that this guy had an inexplicable hostility in his eyes. You? Gu Linshi asked hesitantly. What do you want? Nothing. Yu was obviously not friendly to him. Could be said that he was very cold. He turned around and walked away. Gu Linshi didn't know what was going on. He had a feeling that the boy had done it on purpose when he bumped into him earlier. But why would he bump into him for no reason? Gu Linshi couldn't understand. All of this was reflected in Hua Jin's eyes. Pfft. Was Yu jealous? Moreover, the way he was jealous was cute. Hua Jin felt an inexplicable sense of accomplishment. Chapter 4181. Chu Ho felt that there was no need to set up a new barbecue grill. She walked to Lin Shi's side and watched him carefully brush the oil over and over again. Her interest was piqued. Is it fun? Lin Shi nodded from the bottom of his heart. It's fun. The feeling of grilling barbecue by oneself was different from eating it ready-made. There was an inexplicable sense of accomplishment. Chu Ho also set up 2 skewers of octopus feet and started grilling them excitedly. Although the grilling time was not too long, Lin Shi had some experience. Chu Ho did not know how to grill, but he would still stand at the side and give pointers like an old man. Chu Ho laughed in her heart. This guy was too interesting. Actually, he was not that good at grilling, but he was here to give him pointers. He even acted as if he was good at it. However, Chu Ho was only criticizing him in her heart. On the surface, she showed her admiration for her son. Aya, Lin Shi, you're really good. You've learned how to grill barbecue in such a short time. If we go camping in the future, I'll leave the difficult task of grilling barbecue to you. Gu Linshi smiled. No problem. He patted his chest as he taught Chu Ho how to sprinkle the seasonings. With the addition of cumin, salt, and pepper, a tempting aroma gradually spread. This strange aroma attracted all the little gluttonous bugs, especially Natalia and Yueyao. The 2 little guys smelled the aroma and surrounded Gu Linshi. The 2 of them were not very tall, so they had to tiptoe to see what he was cuffing. Gu Linshi had steak, oysters, scallops, and meat skewers in his hands. Natalia still had some self-control. However, Yueyao did not have any self-control at all. She just stared at the sizzling meat skewers without blinking. She looked like she was about to drool. Chu Ho looked at Yueyao's silly look and almost laughed. This little loli was really too cute. She stared blankly at Gu Linshi's actions as if she was frozen in place like a statue. Her eyes were dull but full of spirit, and her saliva was about to overflow from the corner of her mouth. However, although he looked silly, he was extremely adorable. She looked like a cute little penguin. Her small mouth was like a cherry, but it also seemed like it was made of sweet glutinous rice flour. In addition, saliva overflowed from her lips, giving her a crystal-clear feeling. He got closer and smelled her. There was a milky fragrance on her body. It was the most typical smell of a child. Chu Ho squatted in front of her and gently pulled her little hand. However, Yueyao didn't seem to be very cooperative. He even put his hands behind his back, as if he didn't want her to touch him. His eyes were still locked on Gu Linshi's body, full of yearning. Chu Ho couldn't help but ask Gu Linshi, "Are you done? I've been staring at you for a long time." Only then did Gu Linshi realize that the little guy was standing beside him. He saw Yueyao staring at him with his mouth slightly open, his eyes full of pleading. Chu Ho rebuked, "Did you just see it? I've been waiting with my mouth open for a long time." Gu Linshi asked, "What do you want to eat?" Yueyao didn't say anything. He opened his mouth and looked at him eagerly. Chapter 4182. For some reason, Gu Linshi suddenly had the urge to play a prank on her. He pretended to pinch a piece of meat, but in reality, there was nothing in his hands. It was just air, and he carefully brought it to Yueyao's mouth. Chu Ho saw this and immediately saw through Gu Linshi's little trick. There was nothing in his hands, but it was as if he was pinching something to feed her. This was obviously a lie. Did he think that Yueyao wouldn't see through it? In the end, Chu Ho was overthinking. Yueyao was only a few years old, so she was stunned by Lin Shi's trick. She saw Lin Shi bring a piece of meat to her mouth, but she didn't see it. She even moved her little mouth away. "It's hot." Lin Shi couldn't stop laughing. How was it hot? This guy wasn't stupid at all. He knew that freshly baked food was hot. Or was it that he was already injured when he went to steal food from Yun Shishir's place, so he learned his lesson? Lin Shi pretended to blow gently, then said to Yueyao, "It's not cold anymore. Try it." Really? Yueyao still didn't believe him. After hesitating for a long time, she timidly opened her little mouth. Lin Shi fed her the meat. Yueyao didn't even look at it. She opened her little mouth and bit into a ball of air. In the end, Chu Ho didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yueyao didn't even look at it and swallowed the ball of air whole. In the end, she didn't taste anything and looked puzzled. Lin she even asked seriously, "Is it good?" Yueyao answered honestly, "I can't taste it." Lin she coaxed her again. "I'll give you another piece of meat to try, okay?" Yueyao became excited. "I want to eat meat." She clenched her fists and looked expectant. Her eyes sparkled, which made Chu Ho feel a little sorry for her. Lin she grabbed another ball of air and brought it to her mouth. In the end, when she bit it, she still did not taste anything. She even chewed it seriously, but there was no taste at all. The confusion in her eyes grew even greater. Chu Ho couldn't take it anymore. "All right, stop teasing her. Look at how wrong she looks." Not to mention Chu Ho, even Lin she himself couldn't bear it. He felt very guilty. So he finally picked up a small piece of real meat and put it in her mouth. The meat was an octopus foot. It was cut into small pieces and was very tender and springy. The Yueyao had just changed its teeth, so the octopus foot was a little hot. However, Lin she blew on it and it was much more comfortable. After eating a few pieces of octopus feet, Yueyao smelled the tantalizing aroma coming from the barbecue grill where Yu was standing. She ran over to him and looked up. Gu Linchi looked at her and couldn't help but feel his heart soften. When his sister and brother grew up, they would definitely be as cute as Yueyao. When that time came, he would be a big brother. However, his sister was still too young now. She could only speak a little. He didn't know if she would be more like her father or her mother when she grew up. Chu Ho saw that he seemed to be thinking about something and couldn't help but ask, "What are you thinking about?" "Me." Gu Linchi came back to his senses and looked at Yueyao's back. He said slowly, "I'm thinking that my sister will be as cute when she grows up. You must have been as cute when you were young. Everyone was cute when they were young." Chapter 4183. Hehe. I was thinking that no matter who she looked like, she would definitely be very beautiful. Chu Ho looked at Yueyao's back and muttered, "She looks more like Dad. What do you think?" "Yeah. If your sister looks more like Dad, she might be even prettier." Gu Linchi disagreed. "Who said that? If she looks like Mom, she would definitely be very beautiful too. How can you be so sweet with your little mouth?" Chu Ho couldn't help but scratch the bridge of his nose. Halfway through the barbecue, Mu Yaja suddenly brought over a few boxes of fireworks. Xiao Chen and Xiao Bao immediately got excited when they saw the fireworks. They didn't even care about the barbecue as they ran to the beach and circled around Mu Yaja. Mu Yaja quickly said, "Don't stand here. It's dangerous." "Humph, what's so dangerous about it?" Xiao Chen didn't think much of it. He could even casually throw grenades around for fun. Mere fireworks wouldn't scare him. "Oh, then keep an eye on your brother. Don't let him get too close, or else he might get hurt." "Okay." Xiao Chen immediately took Xiao Bao's hand and walked to the side. Xiao Bao still wanted to get closer, but Xiao Chen held him back again. "Don't get too close." Xiao Bao, on the other hand, had an incredulous look on his face. "Why not? If there's a problem with the fireworks, it will splash on you and then you'll be in danger." After Xiao Chen explained it this way, Xiao Bao understood. However, he still couldn't suppress his excitement. He looked at the fireworks expectantly and said happily, "Fireworks? Fireworks!" It was the first time the children had set off fireworks at the beach, so they were inexplicably excited. Mu Yaja studied it for a while. The wind at the beach was strong, so it would be difficult to light it with a lighter. Therefore, he used the old method. He lit a cigarette and confirmed that there were no children standing around. Then, he lit the fuse with a spark and hurriedly retreated. 10 seconds later, with a whoosh, several meteors rose into the sky in a straight line and quickly disappeared into the night. There were a few more shio 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 sounds, and the fireworks continued to rise into the sky, but they did not disperse as expected. Xiao Bao was surprised. Where are the fireworks?" Natalia and Yueyao also looked around curiously. Generally speaking, when the fireworks rose into the air, they would definitely explode into several brilliant flowers, but now they couldn't see them. Just as the group of people looked at each other, there were a few walala sounds, and dozens of beautiful fireworks suddenly bloomed in the night sky. The falling sparks were like tassels, slowly spreading along the texture of the night sky. These were fireworks bought from a local Chinese vendor, and they were definitely of the highest quality. Therefore, the dazzling effect was indeed beyond Mu Yaja's expectations. He didn't set off fireworks at the beach, so this idea suddenly popped up in his mind. At that moment, the waves, the night breeze, the night sky, and the fireworks, it was a perfect match that couldn't be any more beautiful. Yun Shishir stared blankly at the dazzling fireworks in the night sky, and for a moment, she forgot where she was. Things that were so beautiful that it took one's breath away could always make one forget all their worries. She quietly watched the bursting fireworks. Half of the night sky was almost dyed bright by the brilliant fireworks. It's so beautiful, so beautiful. Xiao Bao clapped his hands in excitement. Chapter 4184. Hence, even though the fireworks were over, he still wanted more. Is there more? He looked at Mu Yaja expectantly, his eyes full of anticipation. There's more, Mu Yaja continued. But there's something in the villa's storage unit. Are you willing to move it with me? Of course. Xiao Bao mustered up his courage and asked, Can I light the fireworks myself? No. Mu Yaja rejected him without hesitation. Xiao Bao's face fell when he heard this. He was disappointed. Why? Because you're still too young. Mu Yaja gave him this reason. Xiao Bao was even more disappointed when he heard this. He said indignantly, I'm not young anymore. I'm all grown up. Ha ha ha. Mu Yaja laughed when he heard this. How old are you? Xiao Bao didn't know how old he was, but he seriously counted with his fingers. Gu Jinglian stood at the side and looked at his son's mature appearance. He was furious. Didn't I teach you how to count? Xiao Bao scratched the back of his head awkwardly and said helplessly, I've forgotten how old I am. Ha ha ha. Xiao Chen couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. Xiao Bao thought that he was laughing at him. He was so angry that he dodged and shouted, Don't shout. Mu Yaja added, You still have the cheek to laugh? When you were my age, you couldn't even do basic arithmetic. Xiao Chen couldn't laugh anymore when he saw that his father was undermining him. He smiled awkwardly and turned his head away. His father. Was he really his father? Was there a father who would undermine him like this? Xiao Chen was very unhappy. He stood gloomily at the side and looked at Mu Yaja with resentment. Mu Yaja couldn't be bothered with him and said, I'll go get a few boxes of fireworks. You guys wait here. Okay. Mu Yaja went back to the storage unit and brought a few boxes of fireworks over. This time, Xiao Chen said that he wanted to set them off. Mu Yaja couldn't be at ease with him, so he passed the cigarette but to him and held Xiao Bao's hand as they walked to the side. However, Xiao Bao was unhappy. He pouted and said reluctantly, Why can he put it down but I can't play? Little Li Chen laughed. I'm older than you, so I can set off fireworks. After hearing him say this, Xiao suddenly had an inexplicable longing. It's good to be older. I want to grow up too. Next to him, a man who had already grown up said faintly, When you grow up, you'll feel that being young is true happiness. Xiao Bao looked at Mu Yaja, who was sighing with emotion, and corrected him seriously. I don't think you've grown up. Oh? What's that? You're an elder. Mu Yaja's face froze and turned slightly pale. Ha 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 ha. Xiao Chen laughed out loud when he heard this. Daddy, he said you're old. Mu Yaja grunted and didn't deny it. I'm old. He wasn't an immortal who had to go through this path. Move aside. Xiao Chen warned Xiao Bao. I'm going to set off the fireworks. Don't come near. Oh. Xiao Bao stepped back and looked at him with admiration and envy. He thought that when he grew up, he could set off fireworks like Xiao Chen. That was great. Chapter 4185. Cheers. Yun Shishir raised her glass and smiled. Her face was slightly red and it was obvious that she was tipsy. She looked at Chu Ho and Gu Jinglian and smiled. Are you guys making up for your honeymoon? You guys have to enjoy yourselves this time. Gu Jinglian smiled and exchanged glances with Chu Ho. Then, he raised his hand and clinked his wine glass against Chu Ho's. Mu Yaja and Hua Jin also raised their wine glasses. With a few clinks, the wine glasses clinked against each other elegantly. For some reason, Gu Jinglian, who was arrogant, would not have put down his pride and sat down to have a drink. However, no one knew what Yun Shishir said to Gu Jinglian when she walked over, but for some reason, Gu Jinglian smiled. Then, they sat down and had a drink together. Hua Jin sighed to himself. Why was Yun Shishir able to make people so happy? Unknowingly, the night gradually darkened. Gu Linshi carried Xiao Bao back to sleep. Natalia and Yueyao were also sleepy. Xiao Yichen carried Yueyao back to sleep. Yu Yu and Natalia also returned to the villa early. The entire beach seemed to be quiet all of a sudden. Only the sound of the sea breeze could be heard. Listening to the sound of the waves crashing against the shore and feeling the gentle sea breeze on their skin, they couldn't help but enjoy it. Yun Shishir said, I haven't enjoyed myself like this in a long time. Chu Ho was puzzled when he heard this. Now that you're not filming, you should have a lot of time to go on vacation. How is that possible? Yun Shishir said helplessly, Yueyao is still young. I don't feel at ease leaving her alone on vacation. Now that she's a little older, I'm afraid that she won't be able to acclimatize to a place so far away. Children her age are very precious to their health. When Chu Ho heard this, he said half-jokingly, Most of the children these days are precious. At that time, when we were young, we never had such a good life. Yes. Chu Ho was immersed in his memories. I remember when I was young, the Duo family where I was born was in a state of war. There was constant internal strife, and the streets were filled with demonstrations and protests. There were also many military forces exchanging fire. I remember that, in order to fill my stomach, I hid from those people and ate bread from the mud. Some of it was spoiled, but in order to fill my stomach, I did not care so much. Even if he ate like that, he didn't get sick. If he were to eat like that, how could the children of today survive? Yun Shishir did not think much of it, though. I can only say that your physique is good. Everyone's physique is different. In fact, many children in that era died prematurely due to malnutrition or poor soil conditions. It was just that no one knew about it. Now that the days were better, such things happen less often. However, the children in those poor areas still find it hard to eat and wear. Therefore, after Yun Shishir got married, she reduced her work. However, she focused more on charity work. There was once when Yun Shishir participated in a charity event and learned that 1,500 yuan a year could be used to fund a poor student's living expenses and tuition fees for a year. Hence, she decided to help 3,000 poor students in one go. Many reporters thought that she was hypocritical and was doing it for the sake of the Shengyu Financial Group's reputation. However, this was Yun Shishir's true thoughts. Chapter 4186. The five of them were enjoying the sea breeze as they chatted with each other. There was no deliberate attempt to find topics to talk about or maintain the atmosphere. Everyone was enjoying the sea breeze and quietly enjoying the tranquility of the night. Perhaps this was a vacation in the truest sense of the word. The five of them drank quietly as they enjoyed the sea breeze. They only dispersed when it was very late. Yun Shishir wanted to go paragliding on the sea. Chu Ho wanted to go snorkeling. Hence, the two of them agreed to meet at the beach early the next morning. Hence, Yun Shishir woke up early in the morning excitedly. She applied sunscreen, changed into her swimsuit, and went to the beach. Chu Ho was already there waiting for her. Yun Shishir was surprised that Chu Ho had woken up earlier than her. Chu Ho said, I woke up early in the morning. Why so early? It's my first time watching the sunrise at the beach. Sunrise? When Yun Shishir heard that, she was instantly envious. How could she have forgotten? Yun Shishir said a little reproachfully, Why didn't you wake me up? I don't have your cell phone number. If I knocked on your door early in the morning, it would be so awkward if I saw you guys doing morning exercises. Chu Ho was a straightforward person, so he said what he wanted to say. Yun Shishir blushed and said, Hey, don't talk nonsense. What's wrong with that? Chu Ho stood up and said, The coach will be here soon. We'll just wait here for a while. Yun Shishir looked at her body. Suddenly, she saw that she was wearing a one-piece swimsuit and was wrapped up tightly. She was a little surprised. Why are you wearing so much? Chu Ho said. Eh? What's the matter? Is there a problem with the swimsuit? You have such a good figure. Don't you think it's a pity to wear so much? As she said that, Yoon Shirshir said to Chu Ho, I have another swimsuit. It's new and I haven't worn it before. Do you want to try it? It's okay. Mine is pretty good. Just give it a try. I've never seen you bare your body before. Ignoring Chu Ho's refusal, Yoon Shirshir took her hand and walked towards the villa. When she returned to the villa, she opened the new packaging in front of Chu Ho and took out a swimsuit. Chu Ho saw that it was a floral design. Broken flower? She hesitated. Yoon Shirshir nodded. That's right. This one is very feminine. It's very pretty. I really liked them, so I bought a lot of them in one go. Would you like to give it a try? Chu Ho shook his head. No, this dress doesn't suit me. The swimsuit she was wearing was pure black. She only liked this kind of plain style. This kind of floral series felt too girly. Chu Ho shook his head. I don't think it's suitable. As Yoon Shirshir reached out to lift her clothes, she nagged. You have such a good figure. Wouldn't it be a pity if you don't show it? As she said that, she lifted her clothes. The moment she saw the firm lines of her abdomen, she was shocked. Seeing her expression, Chu Ho also felt uneasy. What's the matter? Oh my God, is this your vest line? Chu Ho was stunned. I guess so. Didn't you give birth to 3 children? Yeah. Then, Yoon Shirshir said in a daze. How did you recover so quickly? Chapter 4187. Chu Ho thought for a moment and recalled. I remember that there was always a vest. Even though I was 9 months pregnant, the vest could still be seen very clearly. Yoon Shirshir asked weakly, Do you exercise regularly? No. Then, how did you maintain your figure? Chu Ho said, I don't have much fat or excess flesh on my body, only muscles. Comparisons were odious. Yoon Shirshir suddenly remembered that she still had a swimsuit. She rummaged through the drawers and finally found the swimsuit that she liked from the bottom of the drawer. It was white and didn't have too many colors. However, it was very simple. However, it was much sexier than the one that Chu Ho was wearing. Try this one, Yoon Shirshir said with certainty. This one will definitely suit you better than the one you're wearing now. Let's not. Don't you trust my taste? Yoon Shirshir complained. I think this one will definitely suit you. Try it on. Chu Ho couldn't stop her from pestering him. Hence, he took the swimsuit and walked into the room. A few minutes later, the door opened again. When Chu Ho walked out in a swimsuit, Yoon Shirshir was so shocked that her eyes almost popped out. Oh my God! As this swimsuit was a sexier style, there wasn't much fabric and it just happened to cover the areas that needed to be covered. Hence, Chu Ho's perfect muscles were fully displayed. Besides the vest, the most important thing was that Chu Ho really didn't have any excess flesh on his body. It was all muscle. The most important thing was that his muscles didn't look bloated. Instead, they had a very fine line, especially his Apollo's belt, which was partially visible. As he walked, every line of his muscles made one feel suffocated with envy. Chu Ho felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by her. She put her hands on her shoulders to protect herself. To her, this swimsuit seemed too revealing. Yoon Shirshir slapped her hand away. Don't block it. Why don't you show off your figure? Like me, if I had such a good figure, I would wake up laughing in my dreams. Chu Ho frowned and asked, Is there a mirror? What happened? Why do I feel like my butt is completely exposed? For some reason, Chu Ho felt like he was running around naked. Yoon Shirshir said helplessly, Of course not. She pushed her in front of the mirror. When Chu Ho saw herself in the mirror, she was shocked. Yoon Shirshir muttered behind her, You're a woman. Isn't it natural for women to love beauty? I always feel that your personality is too masculine, so you always dress very neutrally. Actually, this is called sexy, not revealing. Is that so? You'll be fine once you get used to it. At first, Chu Ho was a little embarrassed to go out. Yoon Shirshir took her hand and pulled her out of the door. At that moment, Gu Jinglian had just walked to the beach. He had just laid out a mat and was about to lie down to bask in the sun. In the end, Yun Shirshir took Chu Ho's hand and walked to the beach. Gu Jinglian caught a glimpse of them from the corner of his eye. He was so shocked that his sunglasses were crooked. He sat up abruptly and looked over. Only when he confirmed that the woman in front of him was indeed his wife, Chu Ho, did he believe that this sexily dressed woman was his wife. Why was she dressed like that? Gu Jinglian's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Chapter 4188. Chu Ho obviously did not notice his presence. At this moment, the coach in charge of the paragliding project had already arrived and was waiting patiently. When he saw Yun Shirshir and Chu Ho rushing over, the coach took one look and could not look away. Especially when he saw Chu Ho's slender figure and sexy figure. He could not even catch his breath. Although Chu Ho did not deliberately train after giving birth, her foundation was still there. She had been training since she was young, so her figure had always been very good. Therefore, even if she did not deliberately train, her figure was definitely much better than those women who trained in the gym. Compared to the intensity of her previous training, the gym was purely child's play, until Yun Shirshir glared at him. "Coach, can we start?" Oh. The coach came back to his senses and immediately said in broken Chinese, Okay. You're always staring at her. Don't stare a hole in her body." The coach felt even more guilty. However, because of the sun all year round, his tan skin did not show any signs of blushing. Yun Shirshir secretly said to Chu Ho, "Look, you're dressed so sexy. She can't take her eyes off you." Chu Ho laughed helplessly. She looked at Yun Shirshir and her heart was filled with emotions. Other than Meng Qingxue, she did not seem to have any other female friends. Because she had grown up in a transcendent environment, she had a very masculine personality. She was straightforward and did not stick to the rules. Therefore, it was very difficult for her to get along with delicate female friends. However, Yun Shirshir seemed to get along well with her. Yun Shirshir's personality was very gentle. If one were to use an idiom to describe it, it would probably be that she was the kind of person who was tolerant of everything. No matter what personality someone had, she could always get along well with them. And to meet such a gentle friend, Chu Ho also cherished it very much. The coach asked, "Who's going first?" Chu Ho immediately said, "I'll do it." She wasn't sure if the project was safe. Moreover, she could tell that Yun Shirshir was a little scared and guilty because it was a high-altitude project. So, she took the initiative to suggest that she give it a try. The coach took out the safety suit and life jacket and taught Chu Ho how to put them on. Chu Ho was experienced, so he could put them on himself. The coach tied the rope around his body. In order to ensure her safety, Chu Ho grabbed both ends of the rope and struggled with all her might. With the strength of her arms, she could confirm that this rope was truly safe. The coach said, "When I tell you to run, start running. Do you understand?" "Yes, I understand." Chu Ho was well trained, so he answered very well and confidently. The coach held the radio and commanded the yacht to move. The rope was slowly pulled into the sea. When most of the rope was pulled into the sea, the coach shouted, "Run! Run!" Chu Ho gripped the safety buckle tightly and wanted to run into the sea. When she stepped on the water, the sea breeze suddenly rushed over. Accompanied by the huge, dragging force of the yacht, Chu Ho only felt that her feet suddenly left the ground. Her whole body was pulled up by the umbrella and she flew high up into the sky. Actually, it was not considered high up in the sky. Compared to parachuting from thousands of meters in the sky during missions in the past, these tens of meters were not considered high at all. However, Chu Ho still heard Yun Shirshir's exclamation, "Wow, it's so high."